about movies, games, wrestling, and whatever else they can come up with on a whim. You're listening to the Slackercast.
What is up, everybody? Here at you with another episode of the Slackercast. I'm Greg. With me, as always, is Lawrence.
What's going on, guys?
From the S'mores Indoors podcast, Corey.
Oh, yeah. Dr. Pepper, zero sugars. I like that.
And the famous football star, Dustin.
With even worse hair than before.
I'm telling you.
No. When did we start this football star thing?
This is my fresh out of the shower hair.
Well, he's tossing a football up and down. I assume he's a football star.
What team does he play for?
There's only one team.
Oh, God. All right, so we are going to, once again, do a top 10 list this week. This week is going to be our top 10 favorite documentaries. I don't know whether they're our favorite, whether we think they're the best, whatever. It's just going to be our top 10. But we do, before anything, let me go ahead and link the link in the chat here. So if anyone wants to join in and give their picks, they can do that. But first thing we're going to do before we get to our list is I actually ran this by some people at work and just other people and asked them what they thought their favorite documentaries was. So one guy at work did give me a list of his. He actually did the full shebang. He did 10 picks and 5 honorable mentions. So what about you guys? Did you get anyone from your work or home life to give a list?
I got the girlfriend's top 10 and 5 honorable mentions too. So
oh, nice.
Same.
Lawrence.
I'm empty-handed, man. Nobody wanted to do this with me at my job.
That's fine, man. I'll tell you what, you can add.
I can barely get my employees to work, dude, let alone make a fucking list on documentaries.
Fucking documentary? What is that? What are you trying to document? All right, so I think today what we'll do is we'll start with you, Corey. I think we started with Lawrence, we started with Dustin, so this week we'll start with you. So if you want to jump right into it and go ahead and give us who your person is and what the picks are.
Yeah, so this is my girlfriend's list, Adrian, and I guess I'll do her 5 honorable mentions real quick. She had a show. I guess it was a show filmed over multiple years. Kind of reminded me of that Boyhood movie. It's called Up Series. And I think they followed a couple kids from like when they were young, and like every few years they would shoot a new documentary with them till like the last one they were in their 50s, I believe. So that was one. A movie called Word Wars. It's about Scrabble competitions. One called Finding Vivian Maier, which I was kind of interested in. I watched this with her. It's about a woman who was kind of like a street photographer, and she really never got her due until after she had died.
Wow.
It was kind of interesting. One called Richard III. It was about King Richard III in England, and he was buried at this church that after many years, kind of they lost track of where the church was, and I ended up finding his body buried under like this parking lot, which is kind of crazy in England. And her last honorable mention was The Orange Years, the Nickelodeon documentary. So,
what's that? I've never even heard of that.
Right.
It's pretty good. I watched it too. It goes through all the years with like Double Dare and all that shit as it went through.
Yeah, I've heard of that. I haven't seen it yet though.
Did it mention Slime Time or?
I don't remember if it did or not.
That was my
it got pretty in depth though. So.
Gotcha.
There, my audio should be much better now. I had it going through my headset, and now it's actually on my Yeti, so
Yeah,
I should sound a little bit.
All right, so her number 10 is a movie called Grey Gardens. It's
hold on, actually, hold off on that. I'm gonna go ahead and read my buddy.
Okay.
Dustin, you do your person's honorable mentions real quick.
Mine was my girlfriend Tina's, and her 5 honorable mentions were Blackfish, the SeaWorld documentary.
Nice.
Audrey and Daisy, which is a story about 2 girls who were drugged, sexually abused, then cyberbullied. One committed suicide, and the other committed suicide after the documentary was released.
Jesus.
I think his girlfriend shut his closet light off.
I think she did too.
And then she only had 3. It looks like she only had 3 honorable mentions. Her other honorable mention was Mommy, Dead and Dearest, the Gypsy Rose story.
Okay.
I'm on my phone, so I have to switch back and forth to look. I should have wrote her list down, but you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you need to write it down real quick, go ahead. I mean, if you got the stuff to do it.
I'll write the top 10 down.
But all right. So a little backstory on this guy's list that I'm about to give you. He's a guy that I work with, and everybody has that guy at work that's that conspiracy guy. You know, they're always coming at you with this news you've never heard of.
Greg, I know who you're talking about.
or something that's just out there. And you know, I entertain the conspiracy stuff because some of it I buy into also. But this guy goes full in, man, and it always proves for some great conversation. I love when I work with him. But number 1 on his honorable mentions list, I don't know. Actually, these are no specific order, but it's one called Titty Cut Follies. I have no idea what that is and what it's about.
It's a good one.
In the Year of the Pig, The Sorrow and the Pity, Vietnam in HD. Actually, he's got more than 5 here. The Real West, World War II in Color, The New American Century, The Khazarian Supremacy, The Thin Blue Line, and The Bikini Atoll. So those are his honorable mentions. I have not seen a single one of those, so I can't really comment on them.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
We actually have been debating a lot about this documentary thing. He does not approve of my list at all.
I tell you what's cool about documentaries is even more so than almost any other movie. If I hear someone's list and I've never heard of any of them, but you give me like a little bit of like what it's about, I'm probably going to check it out if I'm interested because they're just something about like a real story that's happened is so much more intriguing to me than like just a fake movie.
Right.
Well, I went back and like I did the same thing I did with the sports list and went and checked out like the top 100 and on a bunch of different sites. And there's like I have like a whole list that I wrote down of stuff
I'll tell you
gonna watch.
What I love about this list is some of the revisits it brought to me, stuff it made me want to watch again, and also some of the new stuff it brought to me. So like that's what I really loved about doing this list. But all right, Corey, if you want to go ahead with Adrian's top 10, you can, I guess, just go ahead and name all of them at once, and then we'll just continue like that.
So our number 10 is a movie called Grey Gardens, which I watched it too. It's about these 2 women that they live in kind of this rundown house on, I think it's on Martha's Vineyard, you know, but they're like family, they're cousins of Jackie Kennedy, but they live in like just a filthy house, and it's just kind of crazy.
Did it have roaches?
I would imagine so. There's a scene in the documentary where like they're filming something and just something catches fire in the corner of one room. So they're putting it out. So
it's time to move.
Number 9 is Cave of Forgotten Dreams. That's there's this cave in France that they discovered has all these ancient caveman paintings in it. And they went down and did a documentary on the paintings.
Number
8, Paris is Burning. That's about kind of the...
Because he is.
the Vogue movement in New York back in the 80s. Number 7 is called Crumb. It's about Robert Crumb. He's an artist.
So
Just kind of like comic strip art. That's kind of a little controversial, I guess you could say. Number 6, This Filthy World. It's a John Waters documentary. Number 5, The Architect and the Painter. It's about architect Charles Eames. Number 4 is From the Earth to the Moon. That's the I think Tom Hanks produced that.
Yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah, I remember too.
Number 3 is Ken Burns National Parks documentary. America's Greatest Idea. I think that's what it's called. And the last 2 I actually have here. I can show them. Number 2 is Cosmos. It came out a few years ago. And then her number 1 is
Appreciate it.
is really good too. This is kind of it's a really good watch if you've not seen it, but it's called The Endless Summer. And it's like a road movie. These 2 guys are going all through the coast of Africa and surfing and seeing the sights. And
That sounds so cool.
Yeah, that actually does sound cool.
it's really good. I've seen it. So that's her top 10.
All right, Dustin, what do you got for us, man?
All right. Her number 10 was Abducted in Plain Sight, which was the Netflix.
I'm gonna like
documentary.
her top 10 already. I can
You
already
probably
tell.
will, yeah. I'll read you her notes because they're pretty good. She said, "Abducted in plain sight. Like, really, how did this even happen?" And just giving blowjobs to his buddy.
What?
What?
Have you not seen that documentary?
No.
Oh, you gotta watch that. It's on my list too. I'll go further in depth.
Does it qualify as porn?
No. Taken at Birth is a docu-series about abortions that were actually back alley illegal adoptions out of a clinic in Georgia. The Vow, which is about Keith Raniere's sex cult. Fire Fraud, biggest what the fuck fake festival ever. Seriously, what the fuck? Ugly Delicious, series about food in different areas and how it relates to the host. Hot Girls Wanted, doc about life as a cam girl. Don't Fuck with Cats, best representation of a social media community working together to find a murderer.
Oh, that was good. Yeah.
Ask Dr. Ruth, old lady sex therapist who is blunt as fuck and talks about things no one else will. Amy Winehouse, documentary about her life. And her number 1 was Killing for Love. German exchange student falls in love with American girl and she convinces him to murder her parents. She pretty much writes him off and he loves her still to this day.
Wow.
That's her top 10.
Dude, I can tell you right now what I'm liking with the documentaries, how diverse it is. Like, no 2 lists are really the same so far. So I'm liking, like, I haven't heard some of these at all, but.
All right, so
are we going to do our honorable mentions one at a time, kind of like we did last time?
Yeah, we'll do them one at a time.
Okay, cool.
All right, so my friend Sean's list here. This is now keep in mind he's got some on here that I'm interested in. But, you're gonna see where this is going rather quickly. So his number 10. Some of these I'm not gonna know what the hell they are, so I'm not gonna be able to really say anything about them. Some are self-explanatory. Number 10 is a documentary called Shoah, SHOAH.
I saw that on a lot of lists.
Yeah, that was on
I have not. I don't know what that's about. I couldn't say.
I think it's the Holocaust. Yeah, it's Holocaust.
Actually, that sounds interesting. I'll have to check it out. The People versus Agent Orange is his number 9.
One thing I was going to say about Shoah, it's really long, but it is good.
See, that's the thing that I was giving him shit about, because like every documentary he gave me was like 10 hours long. I'm like, dude, I don't have that kind of time, man. And when I get to his number 1, you'll see why. But yeah, number 9 was The People versus Agent Orange. Number 8 is Nanook of the North, which is about a lady that like an Eskimo that lives in Alaska, I believe.
That's on a lot of lists, yeah.
Number 7 is The American Experience. Number 6 is Requiem for the American Dream by Noam Chomsky. Number 5 is Trey Smith's God in a Nutshell.
Okay.
Number 4 is 500 Nations, The Story of Native Americans. I actually want to watch that one. That he was telling me a little bit about it, and it sounds really good. So, spoiler alert, it's not on my list. But number 3 is Loose Change, New World Order Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement. What a fucking title. That's a lot to take in just from the title. I've got to study that alone. Number 2 is Patterns of Evidence, The Exodus. And number 1 is The Civil War by Ken Burns documentary, which that sounds interesting too, but when he told me it was 10 hours long, I'm like, dude, I'm not going to have time for that.
Greg, let me ask you this, though. Did this guy go to college? Because this stuff sounds like it's like getting ready for a report. Or like
he did go to college. He actually went to a pretty good school. He went to Rutgers. So.
Oh, yeah. That's a really good school.
You went to Rutgers.
The Black Knights, ain't they?
All right, so moving on, let's jump into our honorable mentions, the list that everybody cares about.
It's wait. I did want to say, when you're reading someone else's list, though, it's hard because you don't have the same passion that you have for the ones you have on your list. So it's a challenge to do that. But I do want to check out some of the ones that other people have listed here, though. So
yeah, I do too. It's just like you said, it's hard to really describe a documentary that you don't know really anything about other than the title.
Yeah.
But I'll say this: I've been looking forward to doing this list all week. Like I'm loving these lists, man. Like just building them, and then the anticipation kills me once I get mine done. I'm like, man, I can't wait to tell my list. But me and Corey have been doing a list for probably 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this is nothing new to us. So.
Hey, Dustin, has anyone ever told you look like Jay Cutler?
Yes. Yeah.
Dude, you look like you were sitting there, and I'm like, bro, that's Jay Cutler sitting there with this podcast.
Jay Cutler, Harry Connick Jr. Those are the two most common ones I get.
It's great.
See them both.
All right, Corey. So let's do this, man. Your first honorable mention. What do you got?
All right. Before I throw the first one out, though, I wanted to mention one that didn't quite make my list, but I feel like all these like crime documentaries that are out now owe a lot to this, and it's the shit. I forgot the name of it. The Paradise Lost series about the West Memphis 3. I think that kind of set the standard for like the modern crime documentary. So, if you haven't seen those, check them out. The case just doesn't interest me as much as a lot of people, so that's why it kind of didn't make my list. So, but I did want to shout it out. So my first honorable mention, that kind of coincidence, is Ken Burns' Civil War.
Nice.
I felt like that's his masterpiece, and kind of deserved to have a spot on my list somewhere. So.
Do you think it was a good number one choice for Sean?
Yeah, I mean it's quality. One thing I'll say about my list, like from honorable mentions to number one, these are extremely close. Like one day my number 8 could be number 1. They're just that close to me. So I could see how that one could be number 1 on someone's list for sure. So
all right, so Dustin, moving on to you. What do you have as your first honorable mention?
As my first honorable mention, I put Zeitgeist.
Which one?
The one we watched.
Oh, the Zeitgeist Addendum. Yeah.
Yeah. The kind of kicked. I'm not as much as a conspiracy theorist as I used to be, but that definitely kind of kicked off the whole open-minded.
It definitely made a question mark appear above your head, like, this.
Some of this could be true.
Yeah. Probably most of it is, but Since the first one on my list is actually one Corey already mentioned on Adrian's list, it is Grey Gardens, which he pretty much explained what that was about. I just saw this documentary recently, and I'm a big fan of documentaries that are done with very little talking by a narrator or anything like that, because I feel like you get more into it and you get more connected to the people that the documentary is about if there's not somebody talking to you, talking in your ear the whole time. But I enjoyed it, man. From beginning to end, I was intrigued, and I'm like, it's interesting to see how these women who were obviously upscale women at one point just basically just gave up and became recluses, man. And like, they barely went out for anything, and it looked like most of their food was delivered to them, and it's almost like they weren't even aware of the situation that they were in. Like they seemed like they both kind of like lost their sense of their grasp on reality from just being recluses for so long. But it was good. I mean, I enjoyed it.
I'm surprised that was on your list, honestly.
My list is going to surprise people with some of the stuff on it. I'll say that.
I brought my pen so I can write some of these down. So,
good idea.
That sounds like a
Dustin, you just rewatch the video.
Yeah, I always rewatch our show every time.
This is recorded.
Anyway, so.
But, I'm a busy man, okay.
So, Lawrence, what do you got for your first honorable mention?
My first honorable mention was the Ted Bundy tapes on Netflix that came out just a couple of months ago.
That one just barely missed my list.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it when I watched it. My only criticism of it, I love the Ted Bundy case only because of how insane it is. I mean, of all the serial killer stuff we go through, his story is just completely without cause or reason. There's no like origin story for him that would suggest why he became what he became. But they didn't tell me anything in the documentary you can't read on Wikipedia, is my only issue. Is like I didn't learn any new information or get any new insight on Ted Bundy or the murders themselves. I mean, it was kind of just, you could have just read it anywhere. So that's the only reason it's on my honorable mentions, not in the actual list. But I just thought it, that's just my number 5.
Cool.
All right. Well, coming back to you, Corey, what would be your next honorable mention?
So my next one, I'll go because my honorable mentions aren't really in any order. The first season of Making a Murderer, because that show kind of like it reminded me of like watching Breaking Bad, like the cliffhanger at the end of each episode. Like I had to go on and watch the next one. So, I didn't really get into the second series of it too much, but that first one was like cliffhanger after cliffhanger.
I hadn't seen the second neither, but the first one was good.
I still have not finished the first season of that. I start watching it, and for some reason something distracts me and I lose interest. But
I
couldn't finish that. Yeah, I couldn't stop it either.
That was the one with the Steve Avery guy, or whatever.
Steve Avery and Brandon Dassey.
Yeah. That's a good one.
All right, Dustin, what do you got for your next honorable mention?
My next honorable mention is Filthy Rich, about Jeffrey Epstein.
Nice. That just came out, huh?
Yeah, I think it came out during the pandemic. I remember watching it during the pandemic. Just crazy how connected he is to so many rich and powerful people.
Yeah, and he definitely. It's a crazy story. A lot of conspiracies surrounding that one as well.
Yeah, he definitely did not kill himself.
Oh.
And he might actually still be alive. I think he's still alive.
Dustin, we're going to be next, dude. You can't acknowledge that.
All right, so my the next one of my honorable mentions. Originally, I had this in my top 10, but I decided to change it out for something else. But it is Super Size Me, the documentary about
somebody would have this.
About Morgan Spurlock, trying to eat McDonald's, nothing but McDonald's for 30 days straight, and the effect it had on his body. I don't know, man. I liked this documentary. It was interesting to just see how he just felt like crap from eating the same garbage food every day. And I think he like went through everything on the menu too.
You know, it's because of him they got smaller portions, like at restaurants and stuff, because that documentary.
They stopped doing the supersize at McDonald's.
Yeah,
yep.
That's exactly right.
But yeah, I liked it. It was interesting.
Have you seen his series that he did on FX? I think it only had like 1 or 2 seasons where he does all kinds of shit for 30 days. Like every episode is something different. I think it's called 30 Days.
No. I mean, the McDonald's one interests me because I mean, fuck, I'm drinking a McDonald's drink. I had McDonald's before I started this podcast, so.
Yeah, I eat a lot of McDonald's.
But it definitely made me, consider, hey, this is probably not something you should eat every day. So.
Exactly. Just get diet, Craig.
Diet what? Diet double cheeseburger? The fuck is that?
Well, you showed a drink.
He probably gets a Diet Coke, so.
Yeah, you know what? I don't get the Diet Coke. If I'm eating a McDonald's, I'm like, why? I'm already eating crap food. Why am I going to get a diet drink to go with it? The only time it makes sense is if you're like tossing, like you're calorie counting and you're tossing away the bread and not getting the fries and stuff like that. Then I would get it. But
did you used to do that though? I remember I had a friend, I thought it was you, that would like go to McDonald's and order a big ass meal and then get a Diet Coke with it.
Don't think it was me. Because I've never been a big fan of Diet Coke. So.
Every time he'd go to McDonald's and order this big fucking meal and then get a Diet Coke with it. Like, all right, man, what you doing there?
2 double quarter pounders.
Yeah, double quarter pounders.
I think we knew a guy once that ordered that, didn't we, Corey? Or was it the 2 Subway sandwiches? That guy that worked at the radio station.
Oh yeah, I did. I've done the 2 double quarter pounders before.
He's talking about himself. No, Corey.
All right. So, Lawrence, what's your next honorable mention?
My next honorable mention was Titty Cut Follies. Man, I can't believe someone else had that on my list. I thought I found that for myself. I'm kind of jealous. Titty Cut Follies is like something from like that you shouldn't be watching. I love documentaries that make me feel like I'm going behind like enemy lines or like Area 51 style. But it's basically like an insane asylum somewhere up in, I believe it's Pennsylvania. I might be wrong. But it takes place in like the 60s, and it's in black and white, and it's grainy and gritty. And it shows you how people are treated in insane asylums. It looks like, I mean, it's like hell, man. You got people sitting around stark naked, sitting in their own feces, and the way they treat these guys is, I mean, it's almost like they're not human, and it's one of the most.
It sounds interesting. I'm not gonna lie.
It's just evil looking, man. I don't like that. Everything about this was just bad. And like, there's a scene where like the doctors are like talking to this one guy, and he's like, "I'm not crazy," but they keep talking to him like he is, and they're like, they make him crazy just by the questions they ask him and the way the doctors manipulate him. And they're like, "Did you take your medication? Make sure you do this." He's like, "I don't want to take it because it's making me crazy." And they're like, "No." And then they just chart it down and write everything down. You're completely powerless at this fucking place, and it's just so heartrending, man. So yeah, that was definitely mine. Check it out if you ever get a chance. It's on YouTube, I think.
I'm gonna have to write that one down, or at least revisit and make a note to myself because that does sound interesting. I'd like to watch it.
Yeah.
Maybe I should probably not do that. Maybe I should not talk about, hey, yeah, that's on your list. I want to watch it to not spoil if it's on mine or not. All right, moving on to you, Corey. What do you got next?
My next one is I try to pull all the ones that I own out so I can kind of show them. But my next one's Freddie Mercury, The Great Pretender. This one kind of documents a lot. I guess a lot of people may not know that there was a time in his career when he was trying to break away from Queen and do other things. And this kind of documents that time period, and it goes into everything he did kind of on his own. He did like opera stuff with a renowned opera singer and some other things. And it's a pretty good insight into where he was at that time. This was like just before Queen got back together right before, he found out he had AIDS and his time was kind of numbered. So it's a really good watch. So
Interesting. Dustin, what you got next?
My next one is Killer Inside, the Aaron Hernandez story.
Oh, nice. I didn't know there was a documentary on him.
Yeah, it's actually really good, and it has a lot of his like letters from prison and stuff like that, and just as a Patriots fan,
It does. What a waste of talent. You know what I'm saying?
That's a tragedy story.
Yeah.
Man, if there ever was one.
Yeah, and when we had Gronk and him together, man, and when he went to prison, we had just re-signed him, and we were gonna have them two on either side for at least the next couple of years.
Right. And he had it all. It's not like he was on a shitty football team either. He was on the Patriots. He would have been. He would have gotten more rings. He was on a championship team. He had a beautiful wife, man, a daughter. He had millions of dollars all gone at the age of 25, and it's like that's fucking crazy.
Oh, I've said this on a lot of celebrities.
And fucked with me.
My theory on a lot of celebrities like that come from hard backgrounds is like once they reach that top tier status and they can't give up that old crowd, man. Like they feel some kind of weird loyalty to that old crowd that they ran with, and it keeps them in that mindset, man. That, if they were gangbangers, it keeps them in that gangbanger mindset. They just can't give the shit up, so they keep doing the same dumb shit they did before they were rich when they don't have to do that stuff anymore. So it's like they're trying to keep their notoriety amongst their old peers or something, and it sometimes drags them down and leads to tragedy stories like this.
Sad thing about Aaron Hernandez, though, is he really wasn't that much of a gangster. He was just...
I was going to say the same thing.
He's from fucking Connecticut.
I think a lot of his problem, if you want to believe the stuff from that documentary about the gay tendencies,
yeah, I think a lot of it
he was trying to fight that image and trying to be tougher than he actually was.
Yeah.
So just made stupid mistakes. So.
Right. Well, the Briscoes are from Delaware. I mean, they look like I don't want to fuck with the Briscoes.
Sandy Fork, Delaware, sir.
Yeah. Sandy Fork. So.
Place I don't ever want to visit. Sounds terrifying. All right, so next on my list is one that's already been mentioned, Conversations with a Killer, the Ted Bundy tapes. I watched this documentary. I was into it. I wish it would have gave us a little more insight than it did.
All right.
Like they kind of like, tippy-toed around some of the horrific things Ted Bundy did, and it's almost like the documentary tried to sometimes make him more likable than he needed to be.
Well, have you seen the movie that Zac Efron was in? He played Ted Bundy.
I didn't see it. No.
Not yet.
I think I want to say it's a Netflix movie.
It is.
But you want to talk about trying to make Ted Bundy likable?
One I want to watch was that documentary that just came out. I think it just finished up. It's a multi-parter of John Wayne Gacy. I want to watch that one.
That's
The A&E
good.
did and see how that one is.
That was pretty good.
But moving on to you, Lawrence. We're at what? We're at number 4 on our honorable mentions.
We're on number 3.
Oh,
now.
3.
Well,
Are we?
Yeah.
No, because I've said 3. I said Super Size Me, Grey Gardens, and Conversations with a Killer.
Yeah, he's still got to do his third one.
Yeah. I said
okay.
my third one. I'm last, so.
That's right. I forgot. My bad.
My third one was it's called They Shall Never Grow Old. I don't know if any of you heard of that one.
I haven't.
It's World War I in color. It's like all the film footage from World War I that they had, and like I love this one. It's a World War I one, and we don't know a lot about World War I, but this really shows you how shitty it was. It was like the tipping point between the old way of fighting wars and the new way of the in between World War II and like the Civil War type shit. This is when they finally got machine guns, and there's one scene where like the soldiers they hear that they received tanks, and they think tanks means like water tanks because they don't know what a tank is, and they finally see a tank for the first time, and it like blew their minds. Like they didn't know what you could do with this. And like when they used it on the battlefield, it changed war completely. Like when they talk about a dude getting sniped, guy was saying the guy next to him, he said it sounded like an egg breaking open, an eggshell cracking. And he looked over and they said the dude's head was like caved in. And he was just talking to this dude for like a second. The snipers were everywhere. And this is the first time they ever had war like that. And it was like if you popped your head out of the trench for like a second, you were dead. And they would have to go across open fields, just walking, like in gunfire strafing against you. If you try to retreat, they would kill you. So it was like, and one guy, dude, he said one dude was like, he was unconscious, but his lung was out of his body, and he can see it inhaling and exhaling like a organ bag. And he was looking at it, and they had to like stab him to make him dead. Like they just went through and were killing people. And World War I was harsh, man. That's like when I heard about it, I'm like, there's nothing good about this. I don't know, man. So that's what I got. If you've ever seen it, I don't know. I don't know if you want to check it out.
I don't know how you top that, Corey, but
I don't know. This one ain't gonna do it. I can promise you. All right, my number 4 honorable mention. I think you may have seen this, Greg. My Amityville Horror. It's about the son that lived in the house, from the family that's portrayed in the main movie. You can say what you want to about that story being true, but there's something wrong with this dude, no doubt, watching this movie. But he kind of tells the story of what happened, what he remembers from being a kid living in that house, and it's pretty interesting watch.
All right, my next one was Blackfish, the SeaWorld documentary. It was just pretty interesting to find out how fucked up zoos and places like SeaWorld actually kind of are.
yeah.
You never really think about it when you're walking around the zoo. You're just like, oh, look at the cool animals, and then you're like, oh, man, it must kind of suck.
Yeah.
Plus, it had a big impact on SeaWorld and shit. So,
Dude, did that change? Like, are they allowed to still have killer whales, or did that stop that or something? I know it changed.
I mean,
they stopped getting new ones. Yeah. So when they all die off, they won't have them anymore.
And I think they have new regulations that like they're like whenever they're pods or whatever it is that they keep them in, they can't keep them in something that's bathtub sized anymore. I think they actually have to have a bigger area to move around in and such like that. I think that's changed about it as well. Because I mean that's what they were doing. They were keeping them in like bathtub size little.
They tried to blame the trainer, right? Because they said that then they stopped that from like the trainers interacting with the whales like that, like getting in there and playing in their mouths and doing tricks and shit on them. That was a crazy one.
It's interesting. It's an interesting documentary because they treated the orcas like shit. They also treated their employees like shit.
Yeah.
As well. So.
And it was I put it on my list because it had a big impact, like talk about something that, somebody made and it actually made a difference.
Right.
So
yeah, that's true.
I had to put it on there.
All right. So my next one on my honorable mentions, I might get a little bit of controversy for this one could be debated, I guess, a little bit as to whether or not it's truly a documentary or not, considering the facts that have come out after the fact. But mine is Faces of Death.
Never heard of it.
These movies were all the rave when I was growing up, man, because these were what we were told at the time were legit documentaries of just scenes of people who have died in horrific ways or just weird shit of the world that a lot of people didn't know about. Like this one was proven to be fake later on, or so they say. But, there's one in particular that everyone talks about where they put a monkey in the center of a table and they close it to where only its head is exposed, and they knock it on the head and start eating its brains. Now, it was said later on that was fake, but like at the time, I mean, that shit blew your mind. Like, what? I mean, you just couldn't believe it. But yeah, Faces of Death was definitely impactful to me as growing up.
What was that website that you could go to back in the early internet days?
Rotten.com.
Yeah.
You see like dead bodies and shit.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
I had a roommate. I had a roommate who was crazy as fuck, and I would come home from work, and he was always on that website or some other fucking psychotic shit. And I eventually told him, I was like, look, man, I was like, I don't want you going to this shit on my computer, all right? I was like,
right.
I was like, I don't want my fucking search history or anything like that. If God forbid I was to have my shit taken from me, that they find all this rotten.com shit in my search history or whatever other weird shit you're looking up. I was like, I don't want it on there. So
frame you for murder.
Exactly.
Real quick on the Faces of Death, there's a Blu-ray out of that, and there's a documentary on it. Jonathan and I actually interviewed the guy that produced the documentary, or the commentary, I mean. And he does this commentary with the director, and the director tells how they did set up a lot of those scenes, including the monkey scene. So
Yeah.
if you ever find that Blu-ray on it, it may be worth checking out. But some of that stuff was real. Some of those shots are real in that are just kind of like file footage for me.
Like when I researched it later, when it came out that a lot of it was actually, scripted, it basically was a half and half thing. It's like half of their stuff was real, half of it was not. So I mean,
right.
So I mean, it's not like it doesn't really fall under documentary guidelines, because some of the stuff did actually happen. But as far as we knew at the time, there wasn't any actors. We thought it was real people. So.
Right. Yeah, it was really well done, actually.
Even to today's standards, it's still pretty convincing if you watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Lawrence, what do you got for your number 4?
Well, basically, it's made like the number. If you want to put number 4, yeah. Making a Murder. I know it was mentioned previously. This is the first season. I haven't seen the second series, but I didn't put this in my regular list because as time has gone on, like, it was compelling. Like, when you binged it and kind of watched it with the cliffhangers. But as far as the facts of the case and like how it makes me feel, I wasn't really I'm not taken back with the case. I didn't feel like it was as compelling. I'm kind of leaning towards him kind of having done it based off just stuff I read and researched. And I feel like the documentary is very biased. Like, I don't know. I know you've seen it, Corey. It makes the prosecutors look evil, and it makes the Avery guy look good. But what does affect me is the younger guy who was kind of slow. And I don't think he had anything to do with it. I think he was caught up in something stupid, and he was kind of dragged in. The guy Brendan Dassey. But it's a good one, man. But it just didn't make my list for the reasons I said.
I tell you who I feel bad for watching that is Steve Avery's parents. Like, they're old and they're trying to deal with all this crap.
Right, I did too. And they had gotten him out the first time. That's the crazy part of the case. And they did everything they could to get him out of prison just to go through it again.
Yeah.
Sad.
All right, my last honorable mention. This will probably mean more to me and Greg from where we're from. But I'm sure Greg knows the story of in 1977, the Evansville Aces basketball team were all killed in a plane crash. And this is a documentary that came out locally here called From the Ashes. And this is kind of the story of the aftermath of the plane crash and how they rebuilt the team. And try to get the program back from basically death, back to playing again. So it's pretty good if you're like from around here. So it's kind of means something to me for that reason. But yeah, I had to at least put it on the honorable mentions. It's not the greatest produced documentary, but it's local stuff. So,
and as Corey said, like, if you're from our area, you know who the hell the Evansville Aces are. No one doesn't know who the Evansville Aces are. So.
Interesting side note about that team that was killed. Jerry Sloan, that coached the Utah Jazz, when they played the Bulls in the finals a couple times. He was an Evansville Ace, and then he was the very first Chicago Bull actually too. But he was going to be the coach of that team, and he resigned. So had he stayed as coach of that team, he'd have been killed in that plane crash too. So
crazy, fucking crazy.
All right, Dustin, what do you got for your final?
All right, for my final honorable mention, I put Borat.
Borat? What?
I'm just kidding.
I was about to say.
I put the Dennis Rodman 30 for 30.
I was hoping it was Borat, dude, because I thought you would redeem me for that Fast and Furious fiasco last time.
Yeah, no.
I think that's the only
you'll
reason
never
he
recover from that. I just was trying to be funny. No, I put the Dennis Rodman 30 for 30 because it gives you an insight onto how fucked up his life actually was before he started playing basketball. He was actually homeless for 2 years from about 18 to 20 and then just kind of stumbled into playing college basketball. And he's actually and he's really like a basketball genius. When you hear him talk about the game and how he played the game, it was pretty fascinating. Like, I've always loved Dennis Rodman, but I didn't know how awesome he actually really was when it comes to basketball.
Yeah.
Like mentally, like I know I watched him play.
I definitely liked Rodman. As a matter of fact, I actually read that first book that somebody put out about him. That it gave me a lot of
biography.
Yeah, it gave me a lot of insight into his life, his background, and such like that. So it made me like him even more after that, because everybody just looked at the guy. They're like, oh, what the fuck's this weirdo, man? He wears women's clothes and he makeup and shit with the colored hair. They didn't
actually
understand.
A really shy guy. Like it's a really good documentary. So
what fascinates me with Dennis Rodman is how he's able to stay relevant. Like, remember when he was like in North Korea? And like even recently he was in the news trying to get America to be friends with North. Like, this guy's everywhere.
He's a super celebrity now, man.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
The coolest thing to me about that documentary is when you hear him talk about how he learned how to, because he was one of the best rebounders ever in the NBA. And he talks about how he would watch film and he knew how everybody's shot was going to bounce off the backboard or the rim. He knew every player. He studied every player's film and everything. So he knew exactly where to be whenever the ball came down off the rim. It's pretty cool, man. Check it out if you haven't watched it.
Yeah,
all right. So my last honorable mention is probably going to be, I'm thinking it's at least going to be on a couple of y'all's lists. Probably definitely outside the honorable mentions, but mine is Hoop Dreams, the story about Arthur Agee and William Gates, and there are struggles to try to become chasing that dream of becoming a professional basketball player. I really like this documentary. I actually hadn't seen it until just recent. I think it would probably have meant a lot more to me if there hasn't been so many stories that basically copied it today. That's, essentially the same thing. So I think that's why it didn't have the impact on me that it probably did most people when they first saw it back in '94 when it came out.
I do too.
So,
I think a lot of movies have stolen that storyline.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, it's just because that's the story of so many NBA players now, man. There's so many players that make it to the league now that have that story, that struggle story. But it was, for its time, man, it was a very insightful documentary, man. It showed a lot of the struggle that, poverty kids like that have, especially in those type of communities, that most people are completely blind to and they don't know about. So, but it's an excellent documentary. It just barely missed my list. That's my fifth honorable mention.
Nice. Okay, so my final one was just the History Channel thing that they had, which was just the Ancient Aliens. I don't know if any of y'all saw that.
I saw it.
Yeah, Ancient Aliens was good. It had a lot of good theories. Like the Chariots of the Gods thing. Basically, like aliens built the pyramids, and they call them ancient astronauts or something. But like, if Earth and civilization, or at least early civilization, was guided by aliens, and we had talked about this in an earlier podcast with the whole space and alien things, has always kind of fascinated me. But it barely. I mean, it would have been in my list, but the only thing is none of that stuff's proven, and that's the only thing that kind of bugs me. Is like they're all just kind of wild crackpot theories and stuff, but it's nothing based on science or facts or none. So
Hayden says on your thing there that The Last Dance actually made him go back and watch Rodman's 30 for 30.
Yeah,
Dustin,
but they do a good job with Robin on that Last Dance too. But yeah, 30 for 30 goes more in depth.
All right. Moving on to what matters, gentlemen. Our top 10 list. Corey, you got the luxury of going first this time. Yeah. Since Lawrence always thinks you have the best list anyway, go ahead, give us your number 10.
My number 10 is a movie called Mr. Death. This is about a guy that he's an expert in devices that kill people, basically, like electric chairs. He builds electric chairs for prisons, lethal injection systems, and things like that. So he gets called in to be an expert in this trial for this guy who's a Holocaust denier. And he goes to Auschwitz and takes samples in the gas chambers to try to prove for this guy's defense that there was no chemicals or no poison used in the gas chambers. And he fucks up the samples because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's not an expert in getting samples. So when the tests come back, the lab have no clue what they're doing testing on. So there's no gas in the samples. So it basically ruined this guy's career as working with these prisons and stuff because he made such a bad name for himself with this trial. So, but yeah, it's really good though. If you guys can track it down, it's worth a watch for sure. So
sounds interesting. I'd like to check
it out.
Dustin,
ready for my number 10?
I'm not
ready.
Borat 2.
My number 10 is March of the Penguins.
Okay.
I know it sounds weird, but and I'm sure a lot of people have seen a lot of nature documentaries, but that one really ropes you in. And I remember I watched that on a plane. It just happened to be the movie that was being shown on the plane, and I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. And I've never watched an animal documentary that made me feel like that, so I had to put that in my top 10.
Nice.
Cool.
Interesting.
Plus, it made me love penguins. They're my favorite animal now.
I mean, how do you not love penguins anyway?
I know, right? Between that and Happy Feet,
All right, so number 10 on my list. It's going to be no shocker to anyone that I had something like this on my list, but it is The Dark Side of the Ring, the Chris Benoit story.
Chris Benoit.
Man, this is one of the most tragic stories in wrestling. And they talk with David Benoit a lot, and he's such a victim in this whole thing because he wants to be a professional wrestler. He wants to try to follow in his father's footsteps, as far as the wrestling business goes, and make a name for himself and almost redeem his family name in a sense. But no one will give this guy the chance or even remotely even look at him because of what he's associated with, because he's Chris Benoit's son. So, but fascinating documentary. I won't go into discussing what Chris Benoit did. I'm pretty sure everyone's familiar with that.
Wait, Greg, do you think he did it though?
Do I think who did what?
Do you think Chris Benoit did it? No.
Yeah.
Greg, do you think he did it?
Of course I think he did it.
Why wouldn't Why would anybody?
Because there are people that
differently?
say that there was actually some people who said that he might not have done it, and there was like a big thing initially, but I think it's been
You're
refuted.
talking about that Kevin Sullivan shit.
Yeah,
There's some people who think the damn world's flat too. So
yeah. I actually almost put that documentary on the list.
But yeah, that's my number 10 is the Dark Side of the Ring Chris Benoit story.
nice.
cool.
I guess it's my turn now. My number 10 was something you can watch on. YouTube's got some. Yeah, that's what I was laughing at earlier. Fucking.
I'm not high. I'm just.
He's
tired.
drunk.
Nobody
Not drunk
believes
either.
you.
I'm just tired. Today I'm just tired.
Yo, dude, YouTube's got some great documentaries you can watch just on YouTube if you subscribe to certain guys. Especially if you like history, and I'm a huge history buff. So my number 10 was Caesar and Gaul. I love Roman history, anything to do with Rome, ancient Rome, and like I love the great commanders like Alexander the Great, Attila the Hun, all those guys. Hearing how they just kicked ass and just were just kings and old school warlords. But like Caesar's probably my favorite because when Caesar came on the scene and Gaul was his first thing when he became like led to him being the first emperor of Rome. And basically it's like if you took a guy who discovered America, had him fight a revolutionary war, and then turn around and do the Civil War, win that, and then expand west. Like everything Caesar was fighting up until the day he was murdered in the Senate. When he first became emperor, he never stopped fighting wars. He fought guys at home, away over decades, and never stopped. And it shows why he was so badass. That's just what I got for my number 10.
All right.
Yeah.
Moving on to you, Corey. What's your number 9?
Well, my number 9, I don't have it here, is Hoop Dreams. Greg said pretty much everything. I think what's cool, not cool for them, but what's interesting about that documentary is they didn't make the NBA. That was their goal, but they just didn't get there. And just the whole, put basketball to the side, the whole family dynamic and all they had to struggle through makes that really interesting. And, I know it's like 3 hours or so, but it goes by pretty quick. So that's had to make the list. So
yeah, it was a great one.
All
Dustin?
right. My number 9 is The Great Hack. It's about the Cambridge Analytica scandal, and it exposes how social media and it is just watching and listening to everything that you're doing, and then taking all that data and creating algorithms to just tell you shit that you want to hear to drive you in certain directions. It's pretty fascinating.
Dustin, who's in it? Like, who stars in it?
It's a documentary. There's no movie stars in it.
I'm just messing with you.
It's mostly about the whole Facebook thing where
It's got Sylvester Stallone in it, okay?
Where Mark Zuckerberg, that's when Mark Zuckerberg had to go in front of Congress and all that shit.
Oh, I remember that.
About that. Yeah. Because they were basically, they're basically taking all your data. I mean, your fucking phone listens to everything that you do. Like, literally, you give your phone permission to listen to you, which is why shit will pop up in your feed that you were talking about 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, how'd you know I liked peanut? It's like, that's why.
We added peanut M&Ms to your cart for you on Walmart.com.
Yeah, exactly. It's probably only going to get worse. But it was mainly about how they were trying to drive the election one way or the other.
Oh yeah, that was crazy.
That was the main focus.
So, all right. Well, my number 9 has already been mentioned, and I believe Corey's honorable mentions. It is My Amityville Horror. It's where he pretty much gave a little insight about it, where they interviewed Daniel Lutz, the son from the Amityville house, and like touching on what Corey said, that guy, you can definitely tell he's been through something. Like something's happened to that dude, man, because the Amityville story, whether you believe it or not, like that guy, watching him talk about it will make you believe it because like he seems uneasy when he talks about it. It doesn't seem like he's making shit up. He just there's an uneasiness about him that's hard to explain without actually just looking at him when he's talking about it. But I enjoyed it, man. I've always been fascinated by that story, so definitely had to make my list.
Cool.
Nice.
You're up, Lawrence.
Sorry. I'm waiting for someone to go. It's my turn. All right, so JFK, A President Portrayed. I don't know if you guys ever seen that one. Any of the Kennedy conspiracy theories or documentaries on him and his death, fascinating. The whole thing, because like this actually is great because it shows why he might have been assassinated. Like people say that there's this big Illuminati or New World Orders and stuff, but that doesn't satisfy in the sense of why. Why would he get assassinated? What was he trying to do that was so bad he needed to die? And this kind of goes into it. Like apparently he was kind of a fuck up. Like you had the Bay of Pigs thing where he botched and he was trying to put in he was challenging the military industrial complex. And what's crazy is it talks about how Eisenhower and Nixon, how they handled it by kind of agreeing with a lot of those generals and stuff. And Kennedy kind of challenged their power. They had a lot of power, those guys in Washington, like the CIA, the director of all these different organizations. They actually had a lot more power than the president in a sense. And he was kind of trying to tamper with it. And it kind of suggests that there was like a plot to pretty much assassinate Kennedy. And it just goes into depth about it. So definitely worth a watch.
Cool. You got like a Oliver Stone list of documentaries over there.
And, thanks for joining us, Jess. He says, while we're waiting for Dustin to get back here, he says Magic and Bird, A Courtship of Rivals was a good doc.
Nice.
And and he also commented about Ken Burns' Civil War. I gotta watch that, man.
Now I have to.
Everyone's talking about it. So
what's good about it is it's in like chunks. It's like episodes. There's like 8 or 9 episodes or something. So that helps. So all right, my turn.
Yeah, it's on you.
All right, my number 8 is a movie called Searching for Sugar Man. Anybody seen this?
No. What is that?
So this guy, he was a musician in Detroit, I think in the 70s. His name was Rodriguez. And he put out an album, and it didn't do shit in the States, okay? So he
it is, Hayden.
Pretty much assumed his music career was over. But somehow, like, his album got to South Africa, and he became like the biggest like folk artist in South Africa.
What?
Like he was like inspired everyone in that country. Yet there was a rumor in South Africa that he had killed himself or was dead for some reason, and these people went out looking for him. And they found him. He was basically still living in Detroit, but homeless. And they used like song lyrics from the songs to try to figure out where he was from. But he was like living homeless, no power or anything. So they brought him to South Africa to do this tour, and they sold out like crazy in South Africa, and he was like the biggest artist there. So it's kind of the story of that journey. So
free South Africa, you dumb son of a bitch.
But it's awesome. This one could creep up to my top couple, on certain days. So, yeah. I probably didn't explain it very well, but it's really good.
No, it's not cool.
Moving on to you, Dustin.
All right, my number 8 is The Brainwashing of My Dad, which is it's a documentary on Amazon Prime. And it talks about it followed this lady. She started documenting her dad, who used to be like a Kennedy-loving Democrat, and then when Rush Limbaugh came into or started doing radio, he started listening to Rush Limbaugh, and it completely started shifting him to the right. And it just talks about how dangerous like right-wing propaganda is and how a lot of it's false, and
That's not true.
They play on people's fears and stuff, and it's a pretty good documentary when you think, especially with all the state of the country, so, and how social media and stuff is now. And this was back during radio. And it's pretty cool because she followed, her dad becomes like this person who disowns his entire fucking family because of shit he heard on the radio. So,
jeez, yeah. Maybe it is.
But at the end, at the end of it, she starts to push him more towards like, because he had 1,200 emails a day from like Fox News, Rush Limbaugh, like it's crazy. But it's on Amazon Prime. Check it out. It's good.
All right, my number 8 is Blackfish. We've already talked about it. This documentary did it for me, man. Like I'm an animal lover anyway, and I'm always fascinated by like especially sea life in general. So like hearing this story and about how this one specific orca killed like 3 different people just because it was lashing out about the conditions that, its living conditions. It's just a great documentary, man. It really took me in and brought me along for the ride, and definitely changed my perspective on places like SeaWorld. The interesting thing is, like, I had went to SeaWorld maybe a couple years prior to seeing that documentary, and like I started thinking back on that about like it's all show there, man. Like some of the horror and you don't see because you have so much in the parks distracting you from all of that. So yeah, great documentary. I always recommend it to people as a watch. So had to make my list.
All right, I guess I'm up now. My number 8 was something I watched a while back. Just found it on YouTube. It's called The Pruitt-Igoe Myth. And this made my list because it shows you a place becoming a project like in real time, kind of. It just kind of documents how it starts. Like they build these cheap housing complexes, right? And this was like in Detroit, I believe, or somewhere in like Missouri. And it was called Pruitt-Igoe. It was like a complex they built, and it was nice when they first made it. Man, it had a playground for kids and everything. And over time, because it looked nice, but it was not quality because it was made cheap, and like the people that lived there eventually turned it into a ghetto or a project.
Can I ask something?
Go ahead.
Did anyone watch any fucking feel-good documentaries?
That's a good
Is there
point.
any feel-good documentaries?
March of the Penguins was good.
Yeah, that penguin.
Yeah,
one
March
you
of the
said.
Penguins. Yeah. Hey, there you go. See?
I got one feel good.
Yeah, but that's just what that is. If you ever get a chance, but go ahead. Thanks, Greg, for.
Sorry, man. Before we move on to you, Corey, Jess here listed some that I want to go ahead and throw out from the chat here. He said some horror docs. Never Sleep Again. Crystal Lake Memories. I'm assuming that's probably a Jason documentary.
Mm-hmm.
More Brains. ROTLD.
Return of the Living Dead.
Return of the Living Dead. Okay, I kind of figured that's what it was, but I don't want to jump the gun there. The Psycho Legacy. Halloween 25 Years of Terror. Yeah, I think I actually saw that one. And he said that's just to name a few.
Yeah.
Nice.
Feel free, Corey. Give us your numbers.
Now that you mentioned the feel good, my next 2 are the 2 heavy hitters on my list.
Oh.
So my number 7 is The Bridge. It's a documentary about the families dealing with people that have killed themselves jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge.
That is a good one.
It's a tough watch because they actually have footage of these people jumping.
I've never seen that, so I gotta watch it.
What is that called?
The Bridge. But they kind of have their family there telling the story, and you just see footage of those people on the bridge, and eventually they climb over and jump.
That sounds rough, man. That's gonna be a hard one. I gotta make sure I'm in the right mindset before I watch that shit.
Don't go in depressed. I promise you that.
All right. My next one is Fire Fraud, the documentary about the Fire Festival and how this guy just literally duped thousands of people into spending thousands of dollars and then them getting stuck on an island with nothing. Just plus it also made for some pretty good internet memes. So
Jesus.
All right, I guess moving on to me for number 7. Well, my number 7 is actually a feel-good documentary. It is Won't You Be My Neighbor? The story about Fred Rogers, better known as
almost
Mr.
put
Rogers.
that on my list.
You know, like
I need to watch that.
it took me a little while to watch this documentary, but after I watched it and learned so much about Fred Rogers, like, man, like the Mr. Rogers thing to him wasn't an act. I mean, this dude was just legitimately like one of the best people who ever lived. Like,
Yeah.
like all the people who ever worked with him never had anything but good stuff to say about him. No sexual allegations coming out against him.
Wasn't he like a Marine? He was like a badass though before that, wasn't he? Or was
That's
that
an urban legend.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's an urban
sorry.
legend. The fact that he's, has sleeves underneath the sweaters.
Yeah,
and
the
all that
tattoo
stuff.
sleeves.
There's so many urban legends following this guy, but it's a great documentary if you just want a little insight into the life of Fred Rogers. So.
And I think probably all of us, except maybe Lawrence, all grew up watching Mr. Rogers.
No, I definitely did, dude. That was like a big thing.
Well, I don't know how old you are. I know the other 3 of us are old.
Can I give you a movie quote, Greg, that pertains to your documentary choice?
Go for it.
Go for it.
But it ends on such a downer.
Doesn't look such a downer.
Oh, don't tell me it shows him dying. Like it's got live footage of him like being put to sleep. Like what the?
Put to sleep? He wasn't a dog.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, the documentary ends with them taking him to the Humane Society and.
I didn't even
That
phrase it like that. I'm
Mr.
sorry.
McFeely, that mailman, fucking put a cap in his head.
I'm still waiting. I'm waiting for Lawrence's Fast and Furious moment on this list.
Oh,
Waiting
it's,
for the
yeah,
end of this
I know.
episode.
Well, you might get it with this next one. Lawrence, moving on to you.
well, like, you kind of got all my shit's like depressing now that you mentioned it. I feel kind of guilty reading my list now. All right, my number 7 though was I don't know if it was a 30 for 30, but I watched it on Netflix. It was Ride Like Hell, the Lance Armstrong story. This blew my mind when I watched this, dude, because as a kid, we all knew who Lance Armstrong was. I didn't give a shit about bicycle racing. No one cared about that. He was a household name, and that shows how great he was. To be a household name in a sport no one cared about, is pretty remarkable. And the fact that he was a cancer survivor, he was a hero. Everyone had those rubber bracelets, the Lance Armstrong bracelets. And when it came out that he was a fraud, that he had cheated and all that, it just was devastating. Dude, he lost. You talk about the biggest fall from grace in sports, man. That's one of them. Lance Armstrong was everyone knew who he was, and then it takes you into like the racing and how he was doping and doing all this in the Tour de France. And the saddest part was whenever he was like, he was friends with the president, Bush at the time, and he was on David Letterman. And when everyone found out he was a fraud, they just turned on him. And his mom, he was like, when my mom found out that I was a fraud, that was the hardest part because I had to stand there and say that I was a liar. And he like broke down crying. But it's a good documentary, man.
I'm interested in it because you talk it up so much, but I'm probably going to end up checking it out.
Yeah.
You know what's kind of shitty about the whole shit about him coming out as a cheater?
What?
He was a cheater in a sport full of cheaters. Everyone cheats in that sport.
That's one of those
So he
sports
was like-
that everybody cheats in.
He was like the best one of a bunch of cheaters.
He was just
So,
he was a really good cheater.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I
he was
knew
like
nothing
switching
of
his blood
something.
out and shit. So
Yeah.
his tests would come out not positive. So
Dude, that was crazy when he was doing all that. Like he had like bank heist style shit, and he was intimidating people that would tell on him and shit. It was fucking crazy. But yeah, that's it. That's what I got for my number 7.
Hey, what's up, Jay?
Yo, what's up?
My number 6 is probably my heaviest hitter.
How can it be any heavier than the last one?
I think you've seen this one, Greg. I don't want to go too deep into this because there's a major twist in it. But my number 6 is a movie called Dear Zachary.
I think I heard of it.
I have heard of this movie. I haven't watched it though because I heard it makes everybody cry.
Yeah. So basically, what happens is the director of this movie. This movie started out as a project because his best friend was murdered, and he was going to do this documentary. He was a filmmaker anyway. He was going to do this movie. Well, first off, I'm trying to explain it without giving too much away. His friend that was murdered was basically murdered by his girlfriend. Okay. So a couple months later, as she's kind of going through the process of going on trial, she comes out and announces that she's pregnant with his child, the guy that she murdered. So what the director of this movie was going to do was go interview all of his buddies, family, and friends, everyone that ever met him. So his son would have this document about all these people telling him what kind of guy his dad was. So, the worst part is the guy that died, his parents were going to have to deal with this woman because she was having their grandson too. So they moved to this place in Canada where she fled off to so they could spend time, deal with her and spend time with their grandson. And it gets insane in this documentary. And if you haven't seen this, definitely try to find it somewhere, check it out, because it's pretty insane. So
did it make you cry, Corey?
It's a tough watch. I'll just say that much. So
I'm so intrigued already.
Yeah, me too.
That'll probably be watched by the end of the week.
I've heard from everybody that's seen it and online reviews that it's pretty gut wrenching.
Yeah, so
I'll probably cry. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, especially
anytime. If you're a dad, especially anytime something's dealing with kids, it's tough.
Yep.
So,
faux show.
Yeah, that's number 6.
All right. My number 6 is Mommy Dead and Dearest, the Gypsy Rose story. How her mom, she was a victim, or the Gypsy Rose was a victim of Munchausen syndrome, and her mom basically kept her sick her whole life and sheltered away from everything. And she finally got access to the internet, met a boy, and they plotted and killed her mother. And it's interesting because when you watch a documentary, and there's a TV show too, or a miniseries.
I know that. Yeah.
You kind of end up taking the side of Gypsy Rose, and you're like, well, her mom kind of deserved to get killed.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
It's a pretty good documentary, and the show, I can't remember the name of the show too, but there was a show on I think it was on Hulu, and it's pretty good.
Dude, what a sick thing to do to your own kid, though, right?
Yeah,
that was fucked up.
She was making her eat with a feeding tube, and telling her if she drank a soda that she would die, and all these stuff. And she had doctors that were on her side, and with the mom. And then she finally met a doctor that was you're not sick, you're fine. She even told her she couldn't walk. This kid thought she couldn't walk because her mom told her, you can't walk without your wheelchair. It's crazy.
See, this is the problem with this list right here. It's going to occupy so much time of my life from the stuff I haven't seen, because I hear all the stuff. I'm like, man, I got to see that. I got to see this.
Dude.
So, but I'll go ahead and move on to my number 6 here. Is
before you hit your number 6, since you're going to be preoccupied with all these documentaries, why don't next week you just do your top 10 candy bars?
Top 10 candy bars?
I don't know. That might take up more of my time. I don't know.
Top 10 movie snacks.
That might be a tough list for Greg.
My number 6 is already been mentioned on my buddy's list. It is Patterns of Evidence, Exodus, documentary by Tim Mahoney. It's a very interesting documentary. for believers and non-believers, I'll say, because it kind of debates that timeline when whether you believe Exodus happened or not. It debates the timeline as to when it probably did happen and gives quite a bit of evidence to support it. Basically, what the documentary is trying to say is that Exodus most likely happened in the Middle Kingdom, towards the end of, or maybe in the middle of the Middle Kingdom, as opposed to at the beginning of the New Kingdom, because the Ramses stuff, they touch on all that and how, you know, they might not have been referring to Ramses II. It might have been a metaphor, things of that nature. But they talk to a lot of archaeologists in there, and it gives a lot of both sides, from believers and non-believers, which is why I liked it, because it wasn't biased. You get both perspectives. I mean, it was biased because of the guy who did it, but like, he definitely went and asked the questions to the archaeologists that would straight up say, like, no, there is absolutely not. This is set in stone. You know, this is what happened. This is when it happened. It's a really good documentary that I would recommend for anyone to watch.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, mine number 6. Now I guess we're doing numbers. Yeah, mine was the Up. Yeah, the Up films. You mentioned it earlier, Corey, on your girlfriend's list.
Oh, yeah.
The Up films were good. I'd seen it because I was going through Roger Ebert's list a while back. I wanted to watch all his great films list. This is on there, and basically when I seen it, it charts the kids as they're kids and as they get older. It's like a series of them. What I liked about it the most was how there were certain personality traits in the kid that always transferred, no matter how old the kid got, that you noticed. And it's just a really good documentary because it shows that people don't change, even though they do. Like, no matter how old you get, you still have tendencies that say that you are that same kid, you know? So, yeah.
All right.
Number 5.
Number 5.
Number 5.
This is probably my closest thing I've got to like a upbeat one. No one dies in it, so I guess that's good. This was actually a documentary that came out and was later made into a movie starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt too. But I have Man on Wire. It's a story
I've heard about that one.
of this guy from France that had this dream when he saw the World Trade Center being built that he wanted to stretch a tightrope between the two towers and walk it. And I've heard this described as like almost like a heist film, the process of them trying to get up into the towers to do this because they did it all illegally. And it really is. I mean, it's tense in moments of them telling the story, and there's like some not fake documentary footage of them like in the process of it. But it's really, really compelling watch, and he gets to live his dream. So it's pretty cool though.
No one dies, right?
I think, yeah.
But you answered my question when you said
alert.
no one dies, because
Yeah.
I was like, does he make it across?
He does. Several times.
Does a cartwheel, a backflip?
He does all the little tightrope tricks. So I just like I've seen pictures of that though, real quick. It's just terrifying. Like there's pictures of like shot from a helicopter or something of him on the wire, and it's so far fucking down to the ground.
Yeah, man. Like I couldn't imagine.
Bad.
It's good to have a hobby, but I'll choose a safer one.
Yeah. All right. My number 5 is The Vow, which is about the Nexium cult. It's on HBO. It's really more of a series, but it basically talks about this guy, Keith Raniere, who basically created this program to like better like high up like CEOs and actors and actresses, and it was like a motivational thing, and he created this whole like cult basically, and he had actors and actresses and famous people and CEOs and all kinds of people just but it turned out that really it was just a sex cult, and he was playing on all these.
Aren't they all?
He was playing on the, especially like the actresses, their insecurities. Like he was a master manipulator, and he had all these people, and there was like tier systems and everything. Like it's fucking
Wasn't there
crazy.
branding?
There was branding involved. There was like branches. He had like places set up all over the country. Like he called them like Nexium centers, where people would go to these like these functions. Like, you know how salespeople had like party meetings to like get people hyped up about this and that. It was crazy. It's crazy to, and like Allison Mack, who was in Smallville.
I was just gonna bring that up. Yeah,
she's like
the second in command. Wasn't
she's
she?
probably the most famous person there, and yeah, she was one of the second in command, and it's crazy. He had like rich heiresses and all kinds of shit, and this guy is like 5 foot tall. He has like a ponytail and a beard, and he was just slaying these chicks. But he was also like pimping them out. So
yeah, but they're going to jail for a long time.
Oh, they're all going to jail. There's actually a second season that's going to come out talking about like the trial and everything else. So, but it wasn't just women; it was men too. There was men, women, all of them. Then they were all brainwashed into making.
Greg,
this whole
you were there
work.
too, right, Greg?
For part of it.
Part of it. Gotcha.
Only the sex stuff, though.
No, Greg survived it.
He left after they put the buffet away.
Damn right. Lawrence, you laughed at that way too fucking much, okay? It wasn't that damn funny, all right?
Lawrence loves the fat jokes, okay?
He does.
I used to be fat, man.
All right. So my number 5, a lot of people probably expected to be in my top 3. Great documentary. It probably, on any given day, it could be in my top 3. My number 5 is The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary, the 10-part series. Man,
too low.
This thing was fucking amazing. I absolutely loved it.
I haven't seen that one.
I was talking about this to everybody at work.
How did I see Lance Armstrong before I seen that one?
I don't know, man. But yeah, it gives the story from Jordan like the way you want to hear it, man. All the way from his younger years all the way to when he became the star he was in the NBA. But like it shows you so much about Jordan that probably a lot of people didn't know, man. Like that guy was just a different type of athlete. Like he took basketball more serious. He was basically the coach, of the team. They had their coach, but he was like, the assistant coach and the player at the same time, because when they lose, he would give the team shit. When they win, he would still give the team shit. He pulled no punches, man. It was just an amazing documentary. And anyone who's a fan of Jordan, you're doing yourself a disservice not watching this.
Yeah, Jay, you're not fat, you're big boned. Had the comment.
That's what we all say.
Yeah.
But Gregory, why is it called The Last Dance? What is the reference in that?
It's the last season they were going to be together.
Yeah, it was the 96 season.
Oh, now it makes sense. Yeah.
You got to see it, Lawrence.
I do. I definitely. Too many people have brought that up. I got to see it, man. But
on Netflix, by the way.
Yeah.
Right now.
I think they just put it on there.
Yeah.
Not long ago.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check that out. So moving on to my number 5. This was special to me because this got me into like boxing and stuff. I loved, even more so than the Rocky movies. Like I like the Rocky movies too, but this documentary was like better than any boxing movie, and it was the Ali versus Frazier, and it was the A Nation Divisible. This came out in like 2002. I was a kid when I seen it, and this talks about the lead up to that fight. And I'd always known who Muhammad Ali was, but I never knew who Joe Frazier was until this documentary. And this made me a huge Joe Frazier fan, even more so than Ali. I still love Ali, but this really gave insight to this fight. And it's one of them boxing matches like you've never seen again, because the story behind it is basically like there were 2 champions. Ali hadn't been beaten. He was stripped because he didn't want to go to Vietnam, so he lost the title. He comes back, and Frazier's now the heavyweight champion. They have a fight, and the stuff leading up to this was so crazy. Like all the stuff Ali said about Frazier. He always talked shit before, but this one he went in hard. Like he was calling him like an Uncle Tom and all this other shit. And like, dude, his kids, like Frazier's kids would have to go to school, and they would be like hearing this, and they'd come back to him like, "What does that mean? And why is he calling you this?" And it pissed him off something awful. So when he fought him and won, like spoiler, man, it was like something out of a movie. Like the whole fight and the fact that he beat Ali, after all the trash talk. It's just really good, dude. Check it out.
Awesome. Ali is someone I'd like to, I know a little bit about him, but I'd like to watch some more stuff about him. There's a lot that I don't know. So, actually went and saw his grave a couple of years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Where is it at?
So
yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure.
It's in Louisville. He's buried in the same cemetery with Colonel Sanders. So
Yeah, they're both Kentuckians. So
yeah.
So next time I go back home, Lawrence, you should roll with me. And
Yeah,
see
I need to.
Muhammad Ali's grave.
Yeah. All right, my turn.
yes, sir.
All right, so my number 4 is kind of related to the last one I had, and it's 9/11. This is a documentary that there's 2 French filmmakers. They were coming to New York just to do a film about a young fireman. So they started filming like the training and the recruiting process, and then 9/11 happens. And I think this is the only documentary that has footage inside the towers.
Yeah.
As the planes are hitting it. So
it wasn't that on like national TV too? It was like on
network
television.
They premiered it like September 11th the following year, I think.
Yeah.
See,
Yeah, not 2002.
I'm kind of pissed right now, and I'm going to tell you why. It's because when we were compiling this list, I was searching out. I was like, man, I got to have a fucking 9/11 documentary on my list.
Yeah, me
And
too.
out of all the ones that popped up, I did not see that on a single one of them.
It was on some of the top 100 lists that I looked at.
And it sounds amazing. So I'm once
It is
again.
good. It was
another
on
one.
TV too, which was I watched it when it came on TV, and it was pretty crazy to just see it like actually happening.
Right.
Yeah, I've seen a few 9/11 documentaries. To me, that one's by far the best one. So
I need to check it out. Yeah.
yeah. So yep.
All right. So my number 4 is Abducted in Plain Sight, which is the one I talked about a little earlier about the guy sucking his buddy's dick. But basically,
There's your feel good one, Greg.
basically, this guy, he was a neighbor to this family, and he basically like manipulated this family into basically letting them kidnap their daughter and
I
keep
heard
her.
this one. This is
And
weird.
I mean, basically she tells the story, and it's just the whole time you're watching it, you're just like, what the fuck? Like, how does this happen? Like, how does somebody just let this, like, but the guy was a master manipulator, and he even at one point got the dad of the daughter to suck his dick. Like, he said they were just
This
driving
guy was the
around.
ultimate fucking con artist, man.
And they were driving around, they were talking about something, and the guy pulled over, and and he's like, my buddy told me, that he needed some relief, so I relieved him.
So
What
interesting.
the fuck, man?
He pulls over to the side of the road. He's like, what's your favorite flavor of a popsicle?
Oh, and Greg, this isn't happening.
Root beer? Oh, mine
between
too.
us.
You know,
Yeah.
interesting story. Would you believe? You're not going to believe me when I tell you this, but my dick actually tastes just like a root beer popsicle.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I swear to God, it does, man. I swear to God. Look, we can never tell anybody about this. Just taste it. I promise you won't be disappointed.
But in all seriousness, though, it's literally a documentary you'll watch with your mouth open the whole time. No
the
pun
fuck I
intended.
won't.
No pun, you're literally just like, what the fuck the entire time.
Dude, that
Especially
guy-
if you're a parent, it's just
Right.
like, Like, what the hell?
Now
That
that
guy,
it definitely
he
sounds
owned that
interesting, man.
family. Yeah, he owned that family. That's what that means. That's fucking crazy.
Oh man, how do I top that?
Right.
You can't.
Yeah.
You're right. Not especially now with my next one. My number 4 is a documentary I've recommended to so many people, and for some reason nobody wants to fucking watch it, which I don't understand. I guess because it's heartbreaking. But it's The Cove, the documentary about
the dolphins.
Yeah, the Japanese island where they gather all these dolphins, and each year they're still doing it to this day. It's not stopped, and they just fucking butcher them. I mean,
What?
and they just butcher them, man. And they do it for their meat. They sell their meat to they say it's like a food shortage, and the reason they do it's to sell meat to the local community, so everyone has food. The documentary basically goes into how they don't need to do that. There's other means. It's still up for debate this day. The Japanese government's not going to do anything about it. They don't care. They say it's their way of life and things like that. But it's like, they teach you all this stuff about dolphins in it and how intelligent they are and such like that. And like once you learn all that information about them and how smart they are and how similar they are to us being, a sea mammal, that it's just disturbing, man.
Yeah, dude, like dolphins protect us.
This documentary is on my list because I went all the way down the rabbit hole, man. I went and I watched the unedited tapes because they don't have the full version of the tapes in the documentary. I went and watched the unedited version of the tapes, and when I watched those, dude, I was just, my mouth hit the floor. I'm like, I was angry at these people. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Why?
Greg, it shows them killing the dolphins?
In graphic detail. It's horrifying. But it's fantastic documentary. If you're gonna watch it, go in knowing that this is not a happy story, man. It's not happy at all. You're gonna be angry after you watch it, and it's just it's a rough watch, but I would recommend it to anyone.
All right, I guess I'm up.
Definitely hate.
Corey, you mentioned this previously with the 9/11 thing. I didn't see that one specifically, but if you go on YouTube and stuff and watch any of the documentaries on 9/11, I mean that had me fixated for weeks, dude. Because I knew about it when I was a kid, and you see the planes go in the building. But
sorry,
what's so funny, Greg?
I mean to fucking laugh. But as you're talking about that, I read Hayden's comment. This one exactly.
Yeah, that was in there. Earlier.
How the fuck can I not chuckle?
Thanks, Hayden. He completely hijacked this thing. But
Go ahead, Lawrence. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, but I was watching stuff. I went down a rabbit hole with 9/11 because again, I recently kind of got into not like looking into the details about it. I only knew of like what you saw on the news. But man, when you hear the last phone calls of some of these people, like there's one guy who's in there and they have no clue what's going on because they're in the building. They don't know if a plane went through. One guy is on the phone and he's pleading with them, like, send everyone you got. His name was Kevin Cosgrove. And he's on the phone with the police. And the police are trying to calm him down, like, sir, you need to conserve your energy. Everything's going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. And he's panicking. He's like, no, you have no clue what's going on in here. I can't see. Like, the smoke's coming in. And then at one point, you hear the building, like a pop, and the building's coming down. He's on like the top floor, and you just hear all the asphalt from like the beams and stuff pancaking down, and then the phone disconnects, and it was one of the saddest things. Like, and the people jumping from the buildings. I had never seen that before until I saw the documentaries on YouTube. Like, and that was just sick, dude. This whole thing on 9/11 was just crazy.
It was a weird time because, like, at least 2 weeks straight, I could do nothing but watch news.
Yeah, it's the most news I ever watched as well. As when
it happened to me when it happened for me when I was in 11th grade. So we were like, I was in school and they like turned the TV on, and it's like all we did for like 3 days was just sit in class and watch TV, watch the news.
It's still like watching a fucking movie, especially that second plane.
And like
a
when the
movie.
buildings come down, it's just like, is this fucking real? That's how I remember the whole time just thinking, is this real? Like, is this really fucking happening?
Yeah, dude, it's haunting because like ground level.
Lawrence, did you have a movie though? Because you never said the movie title.
No, there's no. I didn't have a movie title, but I mean, I was just. This is just something like I'm browsing on like YouTube, and then like there's plenty of documentaries. Like they're not really named, but you type in like, just 9/11, and you'll come across all these like video home footage of all that stuff. It's just heartrending.
There's one documentary that's just nothing but that. It's people's camcorder or whatever.
Yeah, and you see it from ground level.
Yeah.
Well, did you say your number 4, Lawrence? You didn't say it was number 4.
That was it. That was the 9/11.
Yeah,
that was 9/11 documentaries.
Yeah, it's put on that. Yeah.
All right, so we're to the top 3, gentlemen.
Right.
This is where we separate the men from the boys.
My top 3 is like 1A, 1B, 1C.
Yeah, Hayden, YouTube is weird.
All right, I've mentioned this before. This would be my 30 for 30 pick.
Great one.
Yeah, that one's good.
Anything you want to know about anything surrounding this case is in this. I think it's a 7-hour documentary. But it just goes into extreme detail, and to me, it's the best telling of that story. So,
and it won tons of awards.
Yeah, I can't say anything else about it really. This is an awesome little addition I found. I found this for $6 used.
Yeah, that's fucking impressive, dude.
Could not pass up on it. It's like got a book in it, and
wow,
everything's kind of in.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so.
He has the best list because he has like the fucking box art and shit, man.
Well, he's not a fucking amateur at this, okay,
Lawrence? Start buying shit.
So have you guys heard? I just recently, like 2 days ago, heard this new theory about OJ, that his son is actually the one that did it, and that he was helping him cover it up.
I kind of think him and his son both were there that night. That's why.
And that they were saying like that's why the glove didn't fit, and this and that is because it was actually his son that killed him, and he led the police on that chase so that they could hide some of the evidence and stuff and cover up the case. So his son, it's pretty crazy.
That
little
case,
conspiracy theory.
I mean, that case has to be one of the most fascinating cases in history. Just with the way shit went down.
A man got away with murder. Like I would never ask this man for nothing. Not even a pack of cigarettes or a stick of gum. Like this guy, O.J. Simpson did it. I mean, there's no way around it. He
was not, not subtle about it, man. He's like rubs it in people's fucking faces. Yeah. I mean, there was a book called "If I Did It."
It's all right. They stuck him in jail for some stupid ass shit.
And,
for quite a while. So
exactly, Jay, the ultimate fuck you, mom.
Fuck you, mom.
All right, Dustin, what you got for your number 4 or number 3? I'm sorry.
All right, like I said, these are all like super duper close. But my number 3 is a 30 for 30, and it's 4 Days in October, which is about the year that the Red Sox won the World Series and broke the curse, and they came back from being down 3-1 to the Yankees. If you know anything about me, huge Boston fan. My family, I took off work for like that whole week. I took like a vacation. When the Red Sox won the World Series, we all jumped up and was throwing shit and jumping on top of each other just like they were on the field. Like it meant a lot to my family. So that documentary does a great job of telling that story of that team, because that team was just a bunch of dummies, as Johnny Damon said.
No, but Dustin,
bunch of idiots.
Like, and the fact that they beat the Yankees.
And what makes it even better is the year before that, my dad was he got sick, and when he was in the hospital, and Aaron Boone hit that fucking home run that eliminated us from going to the World Series the year before that, and I was devastated. We were all devastated that year, and then the next year, we thought it was going to happen again. Like, here we go again, about to get booted out. once again this close to getting to the World Series, and then we came back 3-1. Just it's awesome, and that one does a good job telling the story.
I was all in favor of them. Only thing that hurt is they beat the Cardinals in the World Series.
Yeah. I knew once we got to the World Series, we weren't losing. There was no fucking losing.
After you come back 3-0, there's too much momentum there.
Yeah. It had never been done before. Yeah. Pretty awesome.
All right. So my number 3, Lawrence, you will very, very much approve of this.
Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift.
Exactly. You got it. No, my number 3 is When We Were Kings, the Ali versus Foreman documentary.
That's a good one.
That documentary is just absolutely amazing, man. Like, from beginning to end, it's going to take you in. It gives you Ali exactly as you want him. And it was, his, I don't remember if that was his last fight or not. I think it might have been. But, that's what they were contemplating, talking about, is this Ali's last fight? Does he still have it? George Foreman came in there as the Mike Tyson type, man. He was a heavyweight champion of the world, and he was just dominating everybody. And, like, even the people talking about Ali, like the sports analysts and such, thought Ali was scared because he was doing so much talking to Foreman. He kept saying, Foreman's scared of me. He's scared of me. Just talked so much, man. And, like, he got under Foreman's skin so bad and pissed him off so bad that when the fight actually happened, Foreman was just filled with rage and just fucking punched himself out. And, Ali did that famous rope-a-dope and then just, got that star knockout that every boxer ever wants and, became the world champion again. So
that was crazy.
Amazing documentary. It damn near made my number 1, honestly. Like Dustin said, like, if you have a 1A, 1B, and 1C, this one is definitely it falls into that. But I absolutely love it, man. Like, it just clarifies that Ali was the greatest of all time, and it's undebatable. I mean,
yeah, and going back to that, Greg, like, and going to the fight, you got to remember, this was not Ali in his prime. He lost 4 years of his prime
exactly
because of the whole. And for him, it showed that he really was, man. So yeah.
Well, we lost Dustin again. So if you want to go ahead and give your pick,
I'll go ahead. Back. You guys might not have heard of this. It's another one I came across on.
It's your number 3, so it better be something worthy.
Yeah, it's good. This one had me up nights, man. I was at work looking at this, kind of just studying through it because I'd seen the documentary on it. But it's the New Mexico penitentiary riot from 1980. There's like a whole documentary on this on YouTube again. But basically in 1980, now everyone knows about Attica. That was a famous one. Attica happened before this one, but this was crazier than Attica.
When Kevin Nash started yelling at Corey, Attica.
But the New Mexico riot, man, then the documentary goes into how it started. It was like the prisoners. It was a basic prison riot, but it details how it starts, like how the administration created this environment of hate and like the snitch systems and how prisons were in like the 70s and 80s. Like when people say like don't drop the soap and all this stuff, they think of prison. They mean this era, like in the 80s, because there was no like tier system. So if you were arrested for shoplifting and got sentenced, you went to the same prison as like a cold murderer. There was no distinction between you, and you shared a cell. And you had like, let's say you had 6 months. You shared a cell with a dude who was in there for life. So he had nothing to lose, and you were trying to stay on good behavior to get out early. And they would fuck with those guys bad. And like eventually, and the living conditions were like 3 dudes to like a bunk, people sleeping on floors. Like they didn't even have cells. It was just people cramped into rooms, like 100 deep to a room that was meant for 20. And like there was no AC, and it was just hell. And like eventually one day they rioted, and the shit they did to like snitches and guys they had on their hit list was just barbaric. Like I didn't know human beings could hate this much and like do the stuff they did to people. But check it out, man, if you get a chance. It's just it's the New Mexico penitentiary riots of 1980, and it's just gonna, like, the guards talk about it and like they break down crying because they remember how haunting this was. It was just like so evil. They took blowtorches to people's faces and shit like that. But it's just evil. It's just evil.
You're fascinated with the prison shit.
It's just fucked up, man. It's like it's my worst fear, man. Honestly,
I get
had
it.
a
I
phobia.
totally get it, man.
All right.
And I think Dustin hit the nail on the head with it, because Dustin was like, you want to just leave. That would piss me off, not being able to leave and just go
Jay
wherever
says he
I
thinks
wanted.
he found it on YouTube, Lawrence.
Yeah, Jay, that's it, man. It's on YouTube.
Cool.
All right. It's down to the wire now. Number 2.
My number 2, I think, was on your buddy's honorable mentions you mentioned earlier, and it's The Thin Blue Line. This is a documentary about a police officer that was shot, and they arrest a guy, and all the evidence points to it not being the right guy they arrested. And this documentary actually helped get this guy out of prison. All the research done for this documentary, so it's really well done. And if you haven't seen it, I highly, highly recommend it.
I was actually talking with Lawrence about that whenever I was dashing earlier. I was talking about how I didn't get a chance to watch that before we made this list, and I was regretful of it because I was like, I guarantee this will make my list.
Yeah, it's so good.
When did you see it, Corey? Like when?
Seeing it, it's probably been at least 20 years now. So.
Yeah, sounds like a good one. I need to check it out.
All right.
Dustin, what you got for your number 2?
My number 2 is The Last Dance. It was my number 1, but I bumped it down for my number 1. But like I said, it's 1A, B, C for me. But I mean, to me, it settled the debate on who's the best basketball player of all time.
Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, that was the main thing that I took away from it, was if you think that LeBron or anybody, Kobe, anybody's better than Jordan, you're wrong. If you watch that and still think that, you're wrong.
You know what impresses me about that being your number 2 is that many a times you've had conversations with me to where you tell me I don't even like Jordan that much.
Well, I never did like Jordan. I'm a Celtics fan, dude. He ended our reign. He was the new guard. He pushed Bird to the side, kind of. So I always respected Jordan, but I never liked him, and until like later on in life when I could really appreciate how great he really was.
Dustin, who was the Celtics guys at that time during that era? Because I don't even remember hearing about them when the Bulls were on that reign, dude. That just powerhouse trip.
Yeah, we were after like 80s. After the 80s, we were there were nobodies. We sucked for a long, long time.
So Jay, you're saying Shaq is the greatest of all time? That's who you're going with?
What?
Shaq's my favorite player of all time, but not the greatest.
And he's not half retarded. I hated how people said that rumor about him.
Well,
I never fucking heard that.
Yeah, people said he was half retarded because of the way he talked. It's like, leave him alone.
This is how I talk.
Whose turn is it? I'm sorry.
Greg's turn.
it's
Oh
Greg's
God,
turn.
I don't even want to say it, man. No, actually I do. I can't wait. My number 2 is a documentary that I hope is on someone else's list and not just mine. Grizzly Man.
Oh,
The story about Timothy Treadwell.
Yeah, we
how
know
he
about
would
that.
go like every year and like spend, I guess, like the winter or summer with I don't remember what season it was, but he spent a shit ton of time with fucking grizzly bears. And anyone who's seen this documentary knows that this is not a happy ending at all. I mean, he basically you find out later that, once you jump down the rabbit hole and do the research, that a bear migrated into that territory that wasn't normally there, and it was hungry and starving, so it basically just killed Timothy Treadwell and his girlfriend. I mean, just there's supposed to be footage, like the sounds of what happened when the bear attacked them. You can find like fake videos on YouTube and such that say that
there's no audio. I looked for it,
but the director said that they have the audio, but they're never going to release it. I mean,
they want them to burn it.
Yeah, it's of course, if you see the documentary, all of us are curious, but I mean, like, you don't need to hear it, man. Like, the story itself is sad enough, but amazing documentary. I highly recommend it to anyone to watch. It was just.
I was going to ask that too. Like, Jay says he was stupid, but do you think he was a little bit crazy? Because in the documentary, they show like he was a little bit out there.
I mean, if you're
I don't think he was crazy, man. I think he just.
Right.
I guess anyone who deals with animals like that, I don't think it's a crazy, man. I just think they have the love for the animals and they have an understanding of them that I think the problem is they grow so attached to the animals, they eliminate the fact that they're still killing beasts and they're still predators.
I think they work with them so much they lose that not the respect for the animal, but they feel like they know how to be in control at all times, and they don't. Same thing happened to Steve Irwin.
Exactly, they humanize them too much. They put a human aspect to the animals, but they're not humans. They're animals, and they'll fucking kill you.
They're unpredictable, dude. Yeah. No way. So that was yours, Greg.
Oh, what is that true, Jay? What he said?
Oh shit!
That the pilot could see it from the air. Holy shit! That's man.
Oh, dude.
Just if that's true, that's fucking horrible.
Yeah, that sucks, man.
Yeah, but a great documentary. If you haven't seen it, watch it. Put it on your to-watch list.
Dude, we're not gonna have any time to do nothing, man. Too many good documentaries. But I guess it's my turn, huh, Greg?
Yeah, that was my number 2.
My number 2, you mentioned this earlier, Corey, but I actually watched that and finished all 3 parts this morning. I watched part 1 last night, and I finally was binging it, and I finished it this morning. It was Paradise Lost, and you got it. I actually stumbled upon this actually a long time ago on, again, YouTube, of all places, on accident, and when the Metallica soundtrack kicks in and it starts giving you narrations on what the stuff is about, I was hooked. Dude, this case was haunting. Basically, 3 little boys get murdered in Arkansas, in Robin Hood Hills, some small trailer town. Man, it's like a dump, and there's like a hysteria, and they blame these 3 teenagers. And at first, you're kind of like, they might have done it. They kind of look kind of suspicious, And as they're presenting the facts of the case, you realize, like, no, these guys didn't do it. And what's heartbreaking about it is in the first one, they get convicted. Everyone knows the story, the West Memphis 3. And, like, what I love about the documentary is, like, the amount of detail they go into the court. Because, like, no one had done nothing like Paradise Lost, I think. So, like, the courts let them have unprecedented amount of, like, free time with the defendants, with the families, with the town. And everyone is a character, dude. Even the town itself. And, like, it's so crazy because, like, one of the parts that got me on this, Corey, is whenever they're convicted, right? And the lawyer, and the kids are being escorted, and they're cursing these guys up and down, and they're innocent. And, like, it sucks, dude, because when I was 16, I'm in high school, and I'm thinking about, like, football and sports and, like, going to the mall and stuff, learning how to drive. And these guys are going to prison for the rest of their lives. And then when they drop them with that death penalty stuff, and then the false confessions, and all the police are so corrupt in this, and it's just one of the most heartbreaking documentaries I've seen. But
before Corey says his number 1, before we jump into that, I'm just gonna say I'm gonna need all of y'all to send me your damn list on Messenger, so I can remember some of these ones to watch, man. Because God, there's so many that I want to see.
Yeah,
I did want to mention a couple things. First off, Jay said, "Do you guys think the stepdad did it?" I think it's a strong possibility, but I also think since he's been out. By the way, all these guys are out of prison now.
Yeah, they're out of prison now.
Damien Eccles is fucking weird.
Dude, he is. And this is what I have to ask Corey. What the fuck? Where were their alibis? I've looked in this case. I don't see where the 3 of their alibis are that would exonerate them anyways. So it's weird, this case.
It's kind of a weird deal that got them out. Like they had to
plead guilty.
I can't remember. Yeah, it was weird. There's also a movie called West of Memphis too that kind of combines all 3 movies into one.
Yeah,
and it's really good too.
Either way, though, Corey, like, dude, the real killer's still out there. They didn't catch whoever fucking did this.
Whether they did it or someone else,
This documentary sounds so fucking amazing. It sounds like it should be someone's number 1.
I'm sure it's a lot of people's number 1.
Yeah, this is fucking a trip, man.
All right, I get the honor. So, we had this friend, or at least I had a friend. I don't know how friendly you were with him, Greg. Jeremy King. You remember Jeremy King, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So back in the day, we would be going through high school, I guess it was, and he was always toting around this book and telling me about it, and made me watch this movie that was based off the book, and the book was Helter Skelter, and I had no interest in it. I watched the movie with him. And I was like, okay, people got killed. I really didn't grasp what was going on. So, fast forward a few years after that, and I watched this thing on YouTube, and it was kind of like a trailer for this documentary. And it was my number 1. It was this one called 6 Degrees of Helter Skelter. And so I watched this thing. And I was just enthralled because the guy that made this documentary he did this death. You know how you go to LA and they'll do the tours of celebrity homes and things like that. Well, he did a thing like that where celebrities died, shit like that. So he did this documentary, and he just goes step by step by step through everything that happened through that whole case. And they go to those locations where it all happened, and he shows you and everything. And I was just freaking enthralled with that story after watching that.
I'm enthralled with hearing you talk about it.
Yeah,
so much so, and Greg saw this recently, that from that guy I bought this piece of Sharon Tate's fireplace.
Yes, that's awesome.
So, I watch that documentary at least once every.
You know what? We don't even need to hear anyone else's. Corey wins, okay? Corey always wins.
So
I think my number 1 might win.
I didn't know it was a competition. What the fuck?
I highly suggest that, and I did want to shout him out too. He's got these two other things out called Dearly Departed 1 and 2, and these are just little miniature versions of that where he goes to other famous places where people were killed. He does the Black Dahlia. He does a bunch of other celebrities, Marilyn Monroe, things like that. So even though it's okay on that one. So.
And also, just recently, you had an interview with a gentleman that lives a couple houses down from the house where Sharon Tate was murdered.
I did, David Ullman. It was a fun interview. I just bought his book and got that in recently, so going to read through that soon. So
definitely go check out that episode. I still have yet to be able to watch that one, but I definitely plan to very soon.
It's a wild one. There's ghostly activity in that podcast 4 times.
I know. I can't wait. The documentaries occupied all my time, man. It's taken so much from me.
Greg, we should all take a trip to the Museum of Death in New Orleans because there's a lot of good serial killer memorabilia there.
Ooh, that sounds awesome. That sounds like something to be awesome.
They have Jeffrey Dahmer prison letters, Charles Manson artwork, all kinds of shit. Good stuff.
You think they'd let us record? If we went in there?
That's what I was going to ask. No recording.
Well, what we could do is we could record outside then go inside and view it and then talk about what we saw after we come out.
I think we should definitely do that. It's I think it's $10 or something. It's not. It's and it's a quick go through maybe 30 minutes time.
Oh, I'm totally down, dude. We just got to sync our schedules together and try to make this happen.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my ass down there around November. Save it.
Yeah, actually, that'd be great if when Corey comes down here,
Yeah,
we could all
yeah.
sync it up to where we could all go together. That'd be awesome.
My daughter, of all people, is the one that told me about this museum. So we took her.
Uh-oh.
Hey, Hayden has a pitch to you, man. He wants to hear your prison story first off.
I love
And
how
also,
he love
wants
how
to
he
make
Prison
it
calls
stories on a previous episode.
Dusty.
Yeah.
Dusty.
He always calls me
Dusty.
Look, Dusty. When Hayden acknowledges you, you respond to him. All right.
My prison story is on the I think it's on the Alien episode.
I think it is.
Yeah, it is, of all places. It's our
Yeah.
most
All right,
viewed
Dustin.
video.
Since you think you can top Corey, I want to hear your number one.
All right. I can't believe this isn't on anybody's list. I mean, I don't know if it's anybody else's number one, but I highly doubt it. But motherfucking Tiger King.
I was waiting for that one to pop up. No, I wasn't on one. I ain't seen it.
Tiger King.
Have you not seen Tiger King, Greg?
Nope.
Yeah. Corey, have you
I've
seen
heard
it?
about it.
No, I refuse to watch it. Fuck Joe Exotic. He should be in jail.
What is Tiger
Well-
King? Inform me.
It's the story of Joe Exotic and his crazy zoo of tigers and lions, and it's just the most fucked up ass story that just you. There's all these characters. There's one guy that owns another animal type place, and he has like 4 different girlfriends, and he like rides on the backs of tigers and stuff. Like, it is just like shit that you think can't be true, but it's right there. And there's a murder conspiracy and all kinds of. The guy ends up in jail. Joe Exotic is in jail now for trying to murder some other owner of a zoo.
Slaughter Report says Tiger King is great also. So.
Tiger King is awesome. I mean, I don't know about Corey's feelings about Joe Exotic, but yeah. The documentary is good. It's like, I don't know, it's like 5 or 6 episodes on Netflix. But it was everybody I thought almost everybody watched it during the pandemic. So that's my number one.
It sounds interesting. I'll have to look into it.
Dustin, the only reason I didn't watch it, because I know of it, is because so many people did. I'm the type of guy that's got to wait till it's old to watch. I don't know why.
Well, it's old. It's a year old now, so.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out now.
Corey, what's
right.
your deal with Joe Exotic? You know him or something?
Because he's shitty to animals with that zoo he had. So
Yeah, I mean,
Fuck
he is
that dude.
all of them people in those.
Yeah.
Even Carol Baskin, they're all terrible people, and
Yeah.
most all of them have gotten in trouble. They actually just shut Joe Exotic Zoo down. But,
it should have been
yeah.
a long time ago.
It's a good story. It's a
He had a
crazy
stupid
fucking
haircut.
story. And the best part about it is the guy that made the documentary, he wasn't even trying to make a documentary about Joe Exotic. He was making a documentary about like some like a snake salesman or something, and he ran into Joe Exotic.
Snake oil.
Something, I can't remember what it was, but it was something completely off the it had to do with animals, but not like this zoo thing, and he just happened to run into this guy. And then he goes on a fucking years-long journey of documenting this guy's entire story. It's crazy. It's a good documentary.
Jeez.
Oh, snake oil salesman was a Lauren catchphrase.
That's immediately what I thought of when I heard snake oil. All right. My number one is probably one that nobody would ever expect to be my number one on a documentary list. But my number one is Honeyland.
What is that?
It's a documentary about an ancient beekeeper that lives in Macedonia. This lady, the documentary starts off. I thought this was going to be one that I would start up and I'd be like, okay, this is boring. I'm turning this off. But what I love about this documentary is there's really no introduction. It just goes right into it. There's no narration, anything. You just follow this lady as doing her ancient beekeeping thing. This is how she makes her living. She goes and harvests this honey, basically goes on a damn mountainside and such, and she'll harvest it, take it into town, sell it, and that's how she takes care of her and her mother, who live kind of in this like desolate area and what almost looks like something from fucking ancient Greece or something, man. Like this thing looks so old. But she takes care of her and her mother with that. Her mother's old and kind of sickly, so she just tries to take care of her. They bicker back and forth. You kind of get a feel of the relationship her and her mother have, of that, they've been around each other and they annoy each other, but they love each other anyway. Can't imagine being apart. Well, some part into this documentary, this Turkish family moves in on the land like right across from her, and they completely disrupt her way of life. Like they start harvesting the bees too. They try to make deals with her, everything like, we'll do this, we'll work together and things of this nature. And she tries to give them the knowledge on it, to tell them not to fuck everything up by you only harvest half the honey, and that way the bees have time to produce more and such like that, and it doesn't disrupt them too much. Well, these fucking people get greedy because this guy comes in and wants more honey, so they start pulling it too early and start fucking killing the bees, man. And like they're fucking with her life because they're killing their bees. It's fucking with her bees because they're communicating with each other and such like that. But this documentary is just fascinating, man. Like it will have you hooked from the moment you start watching it. It absolutely blew my mind. I couldn't believe how much I liked it. But definitely give it a watch, man. Honeyland. I think it came out in 2019, and I saw it on a bunch of lists. That's the reason I downloaded it and watched it. And man, it was so good. I absolutely loved it.
So they could communicate with the bees, is what you're saying?
Well, no, like the bees communicate with each other. Like if you have bees in an area close together like that, they're gonna fly back and forth, man. Like they're gonna exist with one another, and probably her bees are gonna go to their comb, their bees are gonna go to her comb, and like the shit that they were pulling was like causing her bees to die too, because it's just weird how the bees operate, man. But like she had a technique down. She respected the bees and such like that. And this Turkish family was just in it for the profit. Like they come in and just fucking disrupt the whole thing. But it's a great documentary.
Check it out. Honeyland.
Honeyland.
All right,
Lauren. So, don't disappoint us.
Yeah, so the making of Fast and Furious. I didn't do it to be funny, but I'm just fucking with you. No, my number one, this is going to surprise a couple people. It surprised me, but I had seen this a couple years ago. It was Woodstock, 3 Days of Peace. Have any of y'all seen that?
I've seen it.
I've seen it. It's been a long time, but I've seen it.
It's good. Like I had never seen it before. I heard of it, and I knew of Woodstock. I'm not a 60s guy or anything from that era. I like the 80s and 90s mostly, but I was watching this because I was going through Roger Ebert's list, and I was kind of going through kind of like a homework assignment type thing. But and I didn't like documentaries at the time, but when I seen this, I was instantly drawn into it, dude. And I'm not even a big music guy. I've never really been to live concerts, man. But except maybe like one. But when I seen this and the way that they were doing it, like the setting up the stages, and when the acts started, like with musicians and stuff, you feel like you're there. And when the crowds come and the mosh pits and like the big whole like the setups and the music gets going, the cameras are like inches from the stage, like they're on stage with the performers. And like when they start jamming, the amplifiers go on, the guitars, like you feel like you're there on stage with them. And like if you have surround sound or like a big screen, dude, watch it on there. Like the highest quality.
I'm so fucking bored, Dustin.
Huh? I'm tired, bro.
That's just Dustin, dude.
I try to tell y'all.
But yeah, dude, it's got everyone in it, dude.
Lawrence's fucking Woodstock. Yeah, it's great, man. It's great.
It's just, I mean, that's how we felt with the baseball stuff, but the Woodstock stuff. I mean, it's like I said, I didn't care about this neither. I'm telling you, like I don't care about 60s music, none of that shit. But the energy and the vibe that you get from there is like you're there. It's the one documentary I've seen like I didn't want to end. I wanted it to keep going and going and going. And like the ending when Jimi Hendrix came out there and did this guitar solo, I understand now why he's such a big deal. Like, and why people get into like rock bands and stuff like that and music. Like, I finally understand. So somebody top that shit, and we'll see.
Oh, well, I mean,
like
we've already said our number one, so
You were the last one, Lawrence.
yeah,
Tiger King wins.
I'm shocked that Honeyland wasn't on anybody's list. I'm blown away.
Honestly, great fuck Honeyland.
Can I shout out one here that wasn't on? I don't think it was on anyone's list, but was a pretty big deal when it came out. Was Beyond the Mat.
Oh man, I can't believe we.
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
How the fuck did I miss that?
I just kind of missed my top, but it was a pretty big deal when it came out. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely, especially for wrestling fans. But yeah, all right, Hayden. I gotta ask you. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about with this comment, man. It's like, Greg, I got you. I don't think the other guys watch much Criterion stuff.
No, because your stuff was on Criterion Classics. Like, that's a company that makes old movies and shit.
Not all of mine were old. Some of them were fairly recent. But yeah, Corey, I definitely recommend you check out Honeyland, man. I think you and Adrian would both enjoy it quite a bit.
Corey's not even paying attention.
It's humbling, man. Like Honeyland is humbling, man, because when you see like how they live, like it makes you start to question everything. You're like, everything that people take for granted. You see how these people live. They're just the basics, man. Like one of her big excitements that she gets from selling her honey is hair dye. Just to dye her fucking hair is a big deal to them. Like, you know, it makes them happy. Like, people here, it's like a fucking chore. Like,
we're reboring them with the honey.
You know what I think's interesting about these documentaries, because a lot of us had like downer documentaries out here.
No, Hayden, I do not.
Is the fact that they, I guess to some degree, they make you feel like you have a somewhat normal and decent life. You know, you're not dealing with all that shit. So,
yeah, definitely. Everybody write down their list so we can revisit some of these. So, any thoughts on everyone's number ones? Any shockers?
I'm shocked that nobody's seen Tiger King. I thought everybody's seen that documentary.
Yeah.
Not only had I not seen it, I hadn't even heard of it.
How did you not?
Yeah, I don't know how you didn't hear of it.
It was like all weird. Anybody talked about for like the first, like that January, February.
Yeah,
like
there were so many memes.
Peak pandemic time. It's crazy that you haven't even heard of it.
I was telling people to stay the fuck away. 6 foot rule, bro.
But Corey, your number one surprised me, but it was. How did that become your number one? Like, how did you decide that?
I just watched that. I watched that more than any other documentary. I think.
I hadn't heard of it, J-Man.
I just like to revisit that that whole story. It's interesting. I don't know why it didn't connect with me when I was younger, but just watching it laid out that way, step by step, is just amazing. I think that might be on YouTube somewhere, unless it's been pulled down. But
I'll try to dig for it. Yeah, I thought that was pretty good.
So Lawrence, I need to know: does Corey win again?
He does, man. I'm telling you, Corey. He's got experience, man. He brings them. He actually brings and shows. So he's not lying, I guess. That's why.
I gotta say, man, I don't appreciate your lack of reaction that I had an Ali documentary as my number 3.
I did. I said I was agreeing with you every step of the way. I even commented on that.
Oh, he was like, oh yeah, that's great.
No, I didn't say that. You need to rewatch this video.
I'm just kidding, man.
I felt like that's
Lawrence,
how it was.
your list actually kind of surprised me because I don't think I saw a single documentary that was on your list.
I
Yeah.
don't think
Yeah.
not one.
I mean, a lot of them came just off of YouTube. Like if you're just scrolling through there, but
I
you never heard of the Lance Armstrong story, that Ride Like Hell, or
I've heard
I've heard of
I've
that.
seen
You
that
talk
one.
about it every episode.
we have? I think we mentioned it before.
I could say by just experience of watching it, if you want to pull one off of Lawrence's list, definitely check out those Paradise Lost.
I'm
dude.
definitely gonna jump into
No,
that.
you made
Jonathan, we've been doing top 10 list. The past couple weeks was horror movies and sports movies, and this week it's documentaries. Our top 10 documentaries.
But Corey, do you think so? You mentioned Damien Eccles. Do you think he is fucking off, man? And I don't know. Like even now that he's out, like I don't know. He's kind of twitchy.
Yeah, I don't know. That case is tough because a lot of it points to the stepdad. I think, like Jay was saying. But then, man, he's just fucking weird. And
Some of that shit, dude. Some of that stuff can't be accounted for. Like, dude, there was one part where the one kid, Jason, the younger one, his mom was like, "I went to school to get his records if he was at school." He skipped school that day. He wasn't there. So what the fuck is going on? Like, so much is just there's no answers.
isn't one of those kids too? It's been a while since I watched this. Isn't he kind of slow like the
Jesse
like guy on?
Hey,
Kid IQ 72.
we're undecided on what the next list is, but whenever we figure it out, I'll send a message in the Twitter chat and let you know.
Yeah, but going back to what Corey said, yeah, that dude's the one who confessed, and that's what fucked up everything. He was not even a suspect. He was just a witness, and they held him for 12 hours, this guy who's retarded pretty much, and they only recorded 45 minutes of that confession, so something's off. That's just a red flag right there.
Man, like y'all talking about this documentary makes me want to go binge it tonight.
Good, man.
It was almost more almost identical to that Brendan Dassey crap.
But what I liked about it was it's not as biased as that one. Like this one gives
true.
all sides.
I mean the two kids being slow and them kind of forcing their confession and shit. So.
Well, there's a whole I think it's a documentary or like a series about forced confessions and how the police are bad about it.
Yeah.
They don't really
I just learned what the hell a Criterion film is tonight. I can't come up with a top 10 yet.
Yeah, the Bojangles guy, there's someone in the comments, Slaughterport, was like, I want to know more about the Bojangles guy. That actually hurt the defense when they brought that up because it made them look desperate. So, the case sucks, man, because there's just so many unanswered. But
well, here's my suggestion for a top 10. We kind of talked about it in our little Facebook chat. The Tarantino movies.
Yeah.
Is there enough of them though?
There's 10.
Yeah, there's 10. So rank them.
Yeah, you mentioned it.
Oh, so you mean just rank the 10 that there are?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I like that idea. We can do that.
There you go, Hayden.
So there you have it. We're ranking the
Tarantino
Tarantino films 1 to 10.
Did we say we're gonna put Kill Bill as 1? Like the 1 and 2 is 1?
I think so, and then you can also include True Romance too if you want.
Yeah, because True Romance he wrote but didn't direct. But all the other 9 he wrote and directed.
Yeah.
All right, that sounds fun.
I think that'll be a good one, honestly.
The sad part about this is I'm probably going to have to watch. I'm going to have to go look at all the Tarantino films and make sure I've seen them all.
I've got to watch Hateful Eight. I've never got it through all that.
I've seen that. It's a crime, but I have not seen True Romance, even though
Have you seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood?
I hadn't seen that yet.
Oh, that one's good. I like that.
It's really good. I like it. But I guess we'll save our discussion for that for next week.
For sure.
All right, guys. Well, it's late. We're almost 2.5 hours in. I think this is the longest one we've done with a list. So the documentaries really brought it out of us. I'm happy with everybody's list. It sounds like everyone put a lot into it.
Yeah, Jonathan, I'm old now, bro.
Yes,
I still got my hair though, unlike almost everybody.
Just stay tuned every week, Jonathan. His hair is more wild by the week. It's like a
Wait till I
different
cut it into
style.
a mullet.
Oh Jesus!
Don't do it.
All right, well, we're gonna wrap this episode up, everybody. Go ahead and go around and let everyone plug anything that they got to plug real quick here.
Yeah, I still got the comic stuff coming, the independent comics. I'm going to probably upload a video tomorrow. Greg's still got to teach me how to use Vegas Pro.
I'll give you some basics on it tonight.
So that's coming.
S'mores Indoors, I think this Saturday, Jonathan and I will be doing a first episode of our Television Terror, where we're going to talk about 2 random episodes, one of Tales from the Crypt and one of Tales from the Dark Side.
Calm down, Hayden. I'll get on it.
Shit, man, I gotta go look it up too.
Yeah, me too.
And then
Me three, I'm sorry.
Tuesday, July 6th, 8 p.m. Central, we'll have second episode of East of the Rockies. Our guest will be Rachel Murphy. She's a spirit medium from the St. Louis Paranormal Research Society.
That's gonna be good.
And she specializes in Ouija board seances.
Oh yeah.
Nice. Corey, is she hot?
Just look at my feed on.
So before you tune in
to
to Corey's episode there about the seances and the Ouija board stories, go listen to our Creepy Classics episode 2, which is all Ouija board stories. So.
Yes.
Why are y'all competing?
We're not competing. We're co-promoting.
Dustin, what do you got?
You still selling cards online?
Yeah, check out Raw Dog Cards 84 on eBay if you like sports cards.
Awesome. And we did no Creepy Classics this week. We actually didn't do anything for Monday podcast. We are going to start doing some new stuff in the future, though, on Mondays. It's going to be kind of like a roulette of things. Lawrence has actually never seen Wes Craven's New Nightmare, so we're going to do a watch-along of that.
Yeah, first reactions.
Yeah, I can't wait to do that. I'm excited to watch it again, and I'm excited to see his reaction. So,
one other thing I wanted to mention, July 10th, Jonathan and I will be going to Louisville, Kentucky and meeting up with Dan and Lorne and maybe a couple other guys. And so we're going to try to do a video on that trip. So.
Oh, yeah, definitely get some video of that. That'd be awesome.
So, yeah.
Well, all right. Just want to thank everyone for listening. Just make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Tell your friends about us. Get us some more followers, some more subscribers. We want to get the word out there because nobody will know about us if you don't tell them. So until next time.
Slack off, guys.